time has begun. There we go. I think it's working. There we go. We made it work, guys. Whew. Here we go once again. I don't know how it happened, but anyway, welcome everyone. Welcome. Somehow there was a lot of kind of pivotal energy that kind of erupted just prior to this live stream. Trust me, it's not a controversy. I'll get into it in a moment, but we've got some equipment malfunctions going on over in the multidimensional trailer park currently. So send us some positive energy as I wave this strange little piece of burning wood around. Whew, Lord. So here we are. I think it's been, oh man, I feel like it's been about 10 days. Maybe it's been a week or so. Star date 2022, sometime in July. Still live on the Earth plane. I want to welcome everyone to the School of Multidimensional Intuition once again. I think lately we've been calling it Strange Communications. That was one of the names that I created for the weird imaginary shows that I had going on in my mind. The other name was Live from a Strange Realm. And then there's the third classification, as I began by casually drooling on myself. Those of you that are very observant will notice this. And then there's the third classification, which is Live from a Realm of Pure Chaos. And I feel like maybe tonight is the most fitting version of Live from a Realm of Pure Chaos. And I will tell you why. And first off, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. Please share this video on social media if you have any social media, whatever that means. I should probably check Facebook world, right? Usually by the time I get started, Facebook has already deleted my live, but let's see. It might actually be there. Oh my Lord, we made it. Okay, here we go. So I think there's usually one or two people on Facebook that like to tune in. So we're gonna be inclusive to the Facebook squad. But anyway, so yeah, some random and embarrassing personal anecdotes from our strange world. You know, I was blessed to get invited to this channel called Third Eye Salon. For those of you guys that maybe saw a little bit of our show earlier today, they had a good vibe going. It was the most unpolished and random I was ever in an interview, but it was actually a really fun experience. So I'm going to share that in a little bit. Hopefully I'll be able to share it in the chat, or maybe one of you guys can grab it. And we're gonna, please do check them out. I think that they have a really cool, accessible vibe, and I hope that you guys will subscribe to their channel and just watch their shows. It feels like they're doing something cool. But anyway, we did a show earlier today. It was mostly focused on Mantis being energy. And during the show that was going on, we had a crazy appliance malfunction at our house over here. And I had this feeling that maybe it showed up in the audio, but I have a feeling it also didn't. But it's like I was sitting here, doing, kind of just, present on camera, doing my little thing. Yeah, sure. And in the background in our house was like it was like an airplane was crashing or something, and like it was just insane. What it essentially was, you guys, I know this is such a random anecdote from our life. Our refrigerator, the fan inside the refrigerator somehow on its own busted loose from inside the refrigerator, and the fan blades broke off inside, and so it was like spinning and thrashing around inside our fridge. It was so loud. I was sitting in this show going, yeah, and just looking over there going, I don't even know what to do. I'm watching it explode. I mean, it definitely didn't explode. I have to be real. It's really not a big deal, but it's one of those things where it's like, whoa, yeah, we're not going to look at the elephant in the room, and I'm going to just, listen to this crazy malfunction. So anyway, just prior to this live, literally right as I was starting, it started again, and this crazy thing started thrashing around inside it. It's like, I mean, technically I could have turned it off, right? We could have turned off the fridge, but there's all kinds of food in there. And let's add another really bizarre layer to our experience here. For those of you guys that might have been following our last episode, and so in our last episode, we were talking about how we had started this 10-day master cleanse. which is just you will just drink liquid over a period of 10 days. No solid foods, and we made it. We made it yesterday. We sort of begun the food reintegration process, which honestly I will tell you I failed at miserably. I'll get to that in a moment. And so, barely starting to eat food again. The refrigerator breaks on the same day, which is a very, in my mind, a synchronistic occurrence. Not that it's a big synchronicity, but I was like, huh, interesting. It's almost like a reset. It's almost like a reset is occurring in some form. The good news is it's not like we're wasting a lot of food. There's nothing really in there because we literally didn't eat anything for over a week. So it's like we had like exhausted most everything, but it was just an interesting synchronistic kind of occurrence on our physical timeline. And anyway, thank you, Cassandra. She says I couldn't hear it. That's a good sign, because somehow I thought everyone could, but I think that's the thing with Zoom. I think that's kind of the thing with Zoom. If you don't have the original sound setting on, it really has a really good compressor, meaning it closes this little sound gate right after a sound is made so nothing else gets through. They have a really good version of it, which is why a lot of the tones and the stuff that we do, you'll get a fraction of it, and then it'll shut the sound down. And so anyway, it's good to know that nobody caught on to that. Because in the midst of this show, I'm sitting here and this thing's exploding in the other room, and I was like so distracted that I felt embarrassed about it, because I'm like, well, I'm like, it's not really appropriate to get up and go deal with that, but damn. So anyway, third density life, incarnate on Earth, they said, right? Anyway, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Let me know if you have any questions. We do have some what I would call items of interest to discuss this evening. A couple kind of questions, things that have been coming through. I guess I've been blessed to have people asking me weird questions lately. It was it's honestly a thing that I would never thought would have happened in my life, but there's been a few that I've sort of gathered up lately, and things that I'm going to kind of discuss. The fun thing is I did not bring it to this moment here, so we're gonna open a window in a moment, and I'm gonna grab that list. But in the meantime, going back to the subject of cleansing, because I have to say that it was quite a journey, and the reason why I'm going to talk about this is because I really pray that everybody in your own way, however you can choose to do it. A lot of us have been on a big parasite cleanse recently. That's been a big deal for us, my Lord. All sorts of, detoxes and whatnot. But it had been since 2020, I would say early spring of 2020, was the last time I had done any form of fasting, or sort of just dedicated, where it's like, I'm really, really only going to do this thing for this amount of days and really clean out the body. I've done a lot of detoxes and stuff. But during those periods, I would usually maintain somewhat of a regular diet, which is odd, not to say that I eat a lot, because I actually eat frighteningly little. Sometimes I just think I have an eating disorder. However, after going through the last 10 days of not eating, it is clear I definitely don't have an eating disorder, because all I could think about was food. But anyway, it will really show you things about yourself that it's like we sort of gloss over it in our day-to-day world. And it's not that the food itself really has anything to do with it, because I'm not a really big advocate of like starvation diets. They definitely will have a regenerative effect on the body, but I've also seen people take them too far. And not to say that that's even what we're talking about here, but for me personally, it really brought me through like many versions of myself over like a 10-day period. It's like all the way back to the version of me in like the 90s, when I was going through addictions and weird chaos and all kinds of stuff. There's a very strange effect that occurs when we really fast and like pull, physical matter out of the body. It kind of shows you how far back, in a weird way, your healing process has been going, or how far back it will go. Because during this 10-day period, granted, there was a lot of physical weakness. There's a cool effect that happens after like day 4. You don't feel as hungry anymore. You feel pretty tired. It gets easier as long as you stay ultra hydrated. But kind of during that process, it was like I had to revisit all these weird emotional wounds. I would say, in looking back on the 10-day fast or cleanse, or I guess technically master cleanse, it was a really deep emotional, like guttural healing, because I noticed as days went on, it was like I would become hyper focused on weird social events that had occurred for me, like back when I was in like 6th grade, and like, like child level weird stuff, like formative kind of moments in which your emotional body and your physical body kind of like viscerally reacted to things. And it kind of showed me the way that, I had been sort of programmed emotionally, and then how I think in the absence of food or sustenance, having removed that layer, from my physical body, it was like suddenly, all those little bits, the little microscopic bits suddenly showed up. And it was like, I had to go through these weird dreams where it was like I was back in the 90s, trying to score dope, and it was like this whole weird, like, oh man, such a weird process, you guys. And it was like I had to purge all that stuff out, you know what I mean? And then we get to the really visceral gross part, and that it is like your body starts to just evacuate. I'll just say it, you just poop out like all kinds of crazy stuff that it's like, wow, that should really, really not be. How is that inside me? But it was, honestly, it was kind of liberating, and then also difficult, because having gone through this 10-day journey of like, really, I guess we could call it self-examination, although I think that's a very weighty term to throw around, because it's not like that's what I was doing every day. Although you'd be surprised, when you take the ritual of eating away from your daily life in more of a deliberate manner, there's a lot more time. There's a lot more time to focus inwardly. So it was very much like a period of self-examination and purging. And I think for myself, what I came out on the other side of it with, is just a knowledge that kind of like, I just need to change the way I look at food, change the way I personally kind of, or I guess change what I eat, which, once again, could be generally said for every, all of us in some form, right? And I see you guys in the chat. Thank you, by the way. I appreciate it. We all have our own weird individualized kind of wounded relationship with it. And so, once again, not so much about the food, but I think whatever the buildup from that had been removed from my body really, really kind of showed me the emotional wounds that I was carrying. And so, really, really awesome journey, but really difficult. I would say we're at the stage now where we're kind of integrating food. And so here is the fun part. Earlier, I was like, and I totally just blew it up right at the end. So last night I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be totally real with you guys. Last night I was like, fuck it, we're gonna get pizza. Boom, just like, like on the, you know what I mean? It's officially over. Somehow I think I can digest this totally weird, thick, greasy, oily, like mass of like, dough. Somehow I think I trust me, I can handle it. And I gotta be real, it was horrible, man. I was kind of paying for it all the way up until 5 a.m. in the morning. And so for anyone that does decide to do one of these master cleanse things, just be sure, follow the directions on the very last day, because I had to go through like hours yesterday. This is an embarrassing thing. We're getting very vulnerable. We're getting very vulnerable on our live stream today. But I had to go through like hours of like this weird, violent, gagging hiccups. It was like my whole body was like over and over. It was crazy. It was definitely one of those personal lessons and, just appropriateness of what to consume. Very, 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 very interesting moment. It probably would have been good fuel for a reality TV show. For those of us that were around in the heyday of reality TV, that would have been like the perfect, like reality episode. And it's like right at the end of their 10-day fast, he decided to get this pizza, and it was like, boom, the major crash. And so anyway, everything's okay now. But it was crazy. It was wild. Yeah. It was intense. I just imagine, since we're getting this weird today, that there's just this like mass of undigested like bread dough just hanging out in my stomach right now. Maybe we all have a massive undigested matter in our stomachs though, right? I mean, come on, right? Am I right? Anyway, sorry, we're getting, I promised we were going to get weird and then it happened. But anyway, let me know if you guys have any questions. Thank you, Mara Moonflower. What's going on? Thanks for joining me and acknowledging really violent guttural hiccups. It was horrible, dude. It was like my whole body was like this crazy. It's embarrassing to do it on this live, but it was like, oh Lord. Anyway, I do genuinely pray for those of you guys that are really good at, if you really want to get a good look in your life at the wounds that have gone unhealed, and just like have this period where it's like, well, I'm gonna feel them all again. And if you're wondering, that's a very good form of shadow work, which is a really, really good, often thrown around term in our spiritual, like community. you know um that's a really good form of it. And so it's, anyone that really wants to take a really wild and intense healing journey. What's up, JC? He knows totally. You've been there, dude. I feel you. Yeah, it brings up all your worst wounds and throws them at you over and over and over again. But honestly, it's incredibly healing. And the good part is all the emotional weirdness and kind of physical, purging aside, you do lose a lot of inflammation from your body, which I definitely noticed. Not that I lost a lot of weight, but you will notice like inflammation leaves. I noticed all kinds of just stuff that I was coughing up and like just weird matter coming out. And you will definitely feel a lot lighter. I think that having not eaten for a certain period of time, like in terms of physicality, one thing I noticed, which is a very, very strange thing, I think I mentioned this last week. I noticed my vision it's like still, even like in the mornings, I'll get up and it's like in this weird way, it's like there's more of a capacity for light. Which, if you're wondering, and I mentioned this last time, that is actually a big example of liver energy that leaves your body. I've known other people that have had a really big experience with that. When you start to really kind of pull inflammation and the liver starts to, in fact, if you want to get technical, I believe that is a sign that for people that have a somewhat enlarged or sometimes grossly enlarged liver, although that will create a whole other round of symptoms, but for those that have like maybe some liver enlargement, sometimes you'll notice as it starts to shrink back down that your eyes will clear up. Not that your eyesight necessarily gets better, although I've heard stories of people where it's like suddenly they could see way better, but it's like you will be able to feel more light. And that was one of the first most noticeable things where I was like, I was also able to walk outside, which is weird that, you will notice these things about your eyes. This is another sign when you got not always a sign of liver toxicity, but you'll have a really hard time with light sensitivity. That can also be a symptom of a lot of other stuff. So it's not just a liver thing, but one of the elements of a toxic liver is you have a hard time taking in really bright light. And so what I noticed at other stages of my life, I would walk outside and it's like, boom, my eyes would just close, like snap, and you're like, oh, it's so bright. And so I would say on like day 2 or 3 of this master cleanse, that was actually gone. And it's a very interesting thing, because I definitely wear sunglasses like most of the time, but it's just kind of a choice thing. But I noticed that it was a lot easier, which is weird. It's weird to hear myself talking about that. What's up, Cam? She says, I need to fast. Blurry vision. Totally. I mean, here's the thing. There's a lot of reasons for that, but for me, and maybe you never know. As the liver went down, I think that's definitely what it was. Your skin will definitely clear up. I would say in general, it's always a really good idea to do it. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions on that. Thank you, Cassandra. Good to see you. Thank you. I certainly hope they do, to make it even weirder and more cringeworthy. I also did a lot of crying, so maybe I know that's so dumb, right? But no, seriously, like lots of purging and lots of like, going back in the old days and like, it's a fun journey. It's a fun journey. Let's all do it. But anyway, so yeah, that's going to be our first official training retreat. We're just not going to eat for 10 days and cry together and go through weird toxic journeys, and then at the end we'll do this crazy bonfire and like this huge ceremony, and in order to graduate the program, everyone has to eat an entire pizza. That's it. You got to eat the whole pizza. That's how you know you've ascended. If you can consume the entire pizza without throwing it up after 10 days. That's literally that's it right there. So anyway, that's the plan, everybody. Cosmic origins. Feel like I've had blurry vision from staring at screens so much lately. That'll definitely do it. That'll definitely do it. I also have pretty bad eyesight in general, so that could have something to do with it. But anyway, um, that said, let me know if you have any questions. I'm actually going to do the awkward moment of clicking over to my own. This is this is how basic yet kind of real we get on this channel. I'm going to click over on my own Facebook page and look at the list that I made for myself of what we were going to discuss tonight. My original plan was to have it on a little piece of paper, but as some of you guys know, the refrigerator is going through a crazy little bit of a malfunction currently. So which that kind of sounds like the plot to a really cheesy like a sitcom, right? Like the refrigerator explodes. So anyway, I'm clicking over on my own page here, and I had a little bit of a list that we were going to use. And so in the few moments while I'm not looking at the screen, I'm going to count on at least one of you guys to put a really just give us as many weird questions as you can. Cool, here it is. I found it already. So with our 12-second delay, you'll probably be typing it in as I come back on the screen. Okay, so here we go. I would say there's been a couple of things people have been asking me about, things that I've also been wanting to talk about. I'm just going to go down the list. Number one, we already went through a lot of it, though. Just the process of detoxing and cleansing the mind, body, spirit complex. At this stage of the journey, everybody knows about the heavy metal detox. It's been so commonly talked about. Everyone's an expert in it by now. If you guys have been hanging out on this live stream for the past few months, you're going to have some knowledge that that's one of the key parts of the journey. Why would we do that? Number one, physical health. Number two, just overall energy within the body. But number three, one of the biggest reasons is, as a lot of you guys know, and I'm kind of dialing it back to things that are very well known on this channel now, because we also got a lot of new people. And I want to, take a moment to say thank you. We've received just a lot more subscribers recently. And I'm very, very grateful for that. I think at a certain, hope sometimes the algorithm works for you, but thank you for those of you guys that keep subscribing. But what I've identified over the past few years have been kind of what I've experienced as being some of the fundamental building blocks of, I guess, reason number three why a lot of us are going to be doing the heavy metal detox right now, because it has one of the greatest effects over your psychic or intuitive abilities, which are native to all living beings. Some of us, maybe like myself, will be more naturally suited within that area, and that'll be the thing that we do. But it is a fact that every living being has a set of abilities and skills that are very unique to you, that are going to be very particular and very much in demand, or you will have a purpose for whatever that is right now. I do not believe, although I could be wrong, that anyone chose a completely useless skill. Who knows? Maybe it'll be like the Family Guy episode where Meg just had long fingernails. Maybe somebody chose that. I don't know. Maybe not. But anyway, there's a skill that you have. And so what I've, identified in my own journey, it's not just me, lots of other people figured it out, is there's kind of like these fundamental stages that we will go through that kind of open those things up. That being one of the biggest questions that I get and what we work with every day is trying to help people figure out, what is my skill? What is my ability? How do I enhance it? What's blocking it? And so heavy metal detox is number one. Number two, which everyone also knows about, I would say 2021 and 2020 were big parasite cleanse, or just particularly specific parasite cleanse just chapters. Oddly enough, we're kind of about to start another one, which is crazy because we just did a 10-day cleanse, but it feels like a thing to do. And so step number two, that will really, really slow down, not necessarily just your, what I would call intuitive abilities, because yes, there's going to be, potentials for all kinds of parasitic stuff going on within the gut and other areas of our body that could be slowing down those abilities. But what they will really be doing is slowing down your body's ability to transmit and use and send and receive chi energy, vital life force energy within the body. And so the parasite cleanse would be, the second sort of, cornerstone building block, insert operative term here. And so the parasite cleanse. Now, there's a number of things you can take for that. Let me know if you guys have questions. If you want me to list a few, I will. But sometimes I feel like a broken record because I keep mentioning the same things over and over again. And so the parasite cleanse is a key stage of the journey. And so for a lot of us, we'll go through this heavy metal detox and we might not address that other part of it. And then I think, maybe the third kind of physical, process or building block that we would use. And, maybe now that I've just gone through that, it feels very much like it. And that's the really dedicated, like, cleanse, like the body cleanse, which in this case might be master cleanse. It might be a 3-day fast. It might be just a water fast. Whatever it is, it feels like having a dedicated period of time in which you experience a great interruption in the rituals and the consumption and the matter that you take in on a daily basis. It'll fundamentally change, if not permanently, because, it's a chapter that we go through, but for a period of time, it will definitely change your sensitivity to energy, emotion, non-physical things, which leads me into another, thing here, which we're on an epic rant right now. But your dreams will get really weird. They will get really weird. I'm going to talk about one in a little bit here, but we're going to look at your comments really quick. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for hanging out on our post-master cleanse, post-appliance explosion live stream. That sort of made sense, right? Anyway, what's up, Teresa Berger? I've recently started eating yogurt. That is new for me. Thank you for mentioning yogurt. This will seem like a weird place that I'm going to take this, or maybe it's not. But I was one of those people where, like, for most of my entire life, I couldn't handle yogurt. I hated it. It was just like this weird thing. I had extreme yogurt aversion. Which sounds sarcastic and fake, but no, for real, it was a weird thing. I just couldn't handle it for like my whole life until sometime in my mid-30s. It was like a light switch. It sounds so dumb. Like a weird switch flicked in my body one day, and I remember being at this like supermarket, and I was like, you know what? I think I think I'm gonna try some of that. And it was just like I had never hated it, and suddenly it was appropriate for me to eat, which is a weird thing. And so I know that's almost non-sequitorial from what you were probably saying, Teresa, but yeah, it was weird. It was like the yogurt probiotic timeline just opened up in my life, which is also really odd because I spent most of my life also completely allergic to avocados, which I now eat pretty much every day. Well, maybe not every day, but a lot. We eat a lot of avocados. And it's weird because for most of my life, I would say all the way up until probably sometime in my mid-30s as well, every single time I would eat an avocado, my entire mouth would swell up, like really dramatically swell up. And then at some point, it was like a switch that turned off. Another thing, since we're going down this we're on a crazy road today, you guys. Another thing that happened for me was watermelon. And it's like, how could you be allergic to watermelon? Is that even possible? I was literally allergic to it from, probably maybe a little bit before the 30s, because I remember eating it, at other stages, and it was almost okay. But yeah, it's very, very interesting to notice how the body really does regenerate. It really does regenerate over period of years. It is definitely a thing. It's definitely a thing. What's up, Ascension Diaries? Totally. You're probably referencing the yogurt or similar foods, maybe. I think everybody has that. That's just like a thing where we're like, no way, I'll never eat that. Yeah. My son is like that with coffee, and I think he's about to turn 21 this year. Yes, it's true. I do. I do have a 21-year-old son, you guys. Well, he's almost 21, but anyway, yeah, he's like that with certain things. So it's probably like a family line thing where we're like, I'll never have that. He's fundamentally opposed to coffee, which is actually cool. I admire that. But anyway, thanks, guys. This has been like the most unexpected road. But anyway, data point number one, everybody, was just really kind of reiterating the importance of, on some level, like the detox process right now. And if you want to go into the conspiratorial side of the pool, I really do believe that there has been a huge uptick in the amount of just what we might call airborne experimental pathogens that are being kind of currently spread around or just broadcast. Some of them come in the form of an injection, others come in, other forms, but the time is definitely right for it. And so anyway, I feel you. I guess we went down the weird food allergy road today. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it. Teresa Berger says, yeah, no on the kefir. Yes, on the avocado. I feel you. Thank you. Anyway, moving off of the food timeline, get ready. This is the stage in the show, you guys. Which it always happens. Just imagine it with me. You're kind of driving down the road, and maybe you're on a 3-lane or a 4. Maybe you're still on the highway, and there's always that moment where you don't look in your rear view mirror and you just spin over at the last moment to try to exit. And so we're literally going to do that right now. I'm going to rapidly shift into another lane, which brings us to data point number 2, which will get somewhat inflammatory, but we're going to go there. It feels like there is get ready, such an abrupt change. Here we go. Sorry if I triggered anyone, but here we go. There seems to be some sort of a mind virus program going on right now with people suddenly deciding that they're like a secret space program survivor, and they suddenly are in all these programs. And, it's a thing, you guys, that I am seeing on such an everyday basis lately. It's like this sort of never-ending quagmire of just like ridiculousness at this point. And here's the thing. I am definitely not out there to call bullshit on people or to say, this guy's fake and this guy's for real, because the reality is, I think, really every single one of us, probably, I shouldn't even say probably, myself included, every single one of us, one of the realizations we're going to come to in this physical life, maybe now or maybe later, is that one of the experiences we signed up to have is the understanding or the coming into contact with the multitude of versions of us, the other timelines, the other versions of reality that exist in our physical world and are just coming into our awareness. And what I was shown over and over and over again, and it doesn't make it right, it could just mean it was my timeline. It just might have been my story. But that's the experience that we signed up for, and that everyone here has a version of ourselves that is concurrently existing in what looks very much like a very, very futuristic space world type of realm. And one of the reasons for that was because it was very, very close in vibration to where we were going, within our soul's journey as a human. It's like we were going to get really close to this vibration. And so one of the choices we made was to become familiar with it. And so while some of us had the experience of going there in this physical life, what most of us are experiencing is really the coming into contact with another version of us, which I think is a natural stage. That is a natural stage of discovery. Like, you're going to understand that at a certain stage that the majority of even the extraterrestrial and internalized mystical experiences we have, those were us. It was versions of us who made the choice to connect with us once again in this life, or rather, that's the way I see it. And so feel free to throw it out if you're not with me on that. Please, I mean that seriously, because some people will hear me say that and they feel kind of triggered because they think I'm saying they're fake. And I don't know, maybe they are. Although I will say, there's a dude going around right now that to me feels like the most, like the pinnacle of the kind of secret space program, kind of, super soldier madness. And no, I'm not going to do the character assassination like it's this person. I already did that. Trust me, we made a whole channel out of it, and in the end, nobody gave a shit. And so, I'm not going to say his name. You guys can figure it out really easily, but I think it's sort of like a character study into what appears to be a rapidly growing version of some offshoot of this mind virus that causes people to kind of jump into this idea that part of their sort of mission here is to be this sort of secret space program kind of disclosure savior. And it's like the more and more I see the secret space program disclosure savior people, the more and more I become just completely avoidant. And it's like, and this is me just kind of speaking my feelings here. It's like I want to avoid and like resign from the whole topic. because it's like I really trip out the way people will automatically gravitate to the most flashiest, craziest conclusion, like the one that has the most kind of spiritual and conspiratorial buzzwords. If you string enough of those like together, everyone's going to instantly subscribe to it. And most of the time I think it's because it's literally just it's like a vibrational attraction. It's like that looks like and sounds like and feels like something we've already heard, therefore it's real. And it doesn't mean that it's not, but it does mean that to me it's a thing that I'm choosing to talk about openly now. And don't worry, we're not gonna do any calling people out. I'm not gonna do a 7-episode series of interviews. don't worry. But it's just a thing that I just want to talk about, and I pray that people will just really use your discernment with everyone in the scene that's coming and telling you like, this is how it actually is. Check it out. It's actually like this, and this person's good, and that person's evil, and that person's dead, and this guy over here is fake. It's almost like, what was it, 2016 Sphere Being Alliance 2.0. You know what I mean? It's like it's coming back again. Let's all have fun with it. What did we learn from our experience last time? What did we learn? I don't know. I don't know what I learned from mine. But anyway, a lot of us signed up to have it all over again. But it's fun. And here is the other part of it. It's like there's probably like the skeptic kind of, and maybe it's a little bit of the age thing, you know what I mean? Maybe it's like the mid 40s version of me speaking, but it's like at the same time, I'm like, it's very, very entertaining. And I would just like to allow this process to continue and just see what happens on the other side. Just continue to watch it, like a television show, which, for those of us that were heavily invested in like the David Wilcock, the solar sneeze David Wilcock timeline game which was really fun, right? It was a really, really fun journey. I still watch David constantly. I love the guy. For those of us that were going through that period, we all kind of saw where that went. And so it's like interesting to see how there's these sort of little lights on the grid, and everybody will sort of light up, and you'll watch the soul group herd mentality, follow the brightest light until it burns out. And so anyway, watch out. I'll keep making weird, vague, pointed, angular comments over and over again. Jay says, how about a 9-episode series? Dude, I think it was 7. Or was it 6? It was 6. But maybe we'll do 9. Maybe we'll do 9. I don't know. He's now convinced we don't need a cataclysmic event to ascend. You know what? I don't think, well, here's the thing. I think everyone gets their own version of the sort of ascension process. That's my real, honest, in my heart, a belief. Every living and soul being will experience their own version of that. From what I can tell, and I might be talking about just me, you know what I mean? Because I think a lot of us, we make the mistake of kind of identifying what we have understood internally as our timeline as one that's going to be dictated upon everyone else, when in reality, everyone's living their own individualized version of reality. I think that everyone gets their own version of that process. And I guess the awkward part is, you guys have heard me say this before. I think for most of us, that process takes place upon physical death. And so maybe for some of us, physical death will be an amazing solar flare that occurs. But I think for a lot of us, it's the physical death process. I guess if you want to dial it back, whether or not you subscribe to it or not, if you want to dial it back to the biblical days, wasn't that Jesus's ascension? Dying on the cross? For those that subscribe to that, and I know, every time someone brings out like a biblical reference, everyone's hackles go, so, take what you can from that. But anyway, I don't know how we got on that from the SSP mind virus, but anyway, I do kind of feel like it's a little bit of a mind virus thing going on. But I honestly, I withhold judgment really, and I think that's kind of where I'm gonna be in terms of, you know, what is real and what is not. But if there is one red flag that I want to convey to everyone prior to jumping off of this awkward topic, is that anytime anyone shows up and they suddenly have all the answers for everything, and they show up and they're like, oh, well, let me tell you what that actually is. And that, here's the thing, that's myself included. And I say this as a person that, you know, well, let's be right, I have a generally good track record in terms of what I do, maybe better than general, but it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily right in terms of world events or anyone else's reality other than my own, and sometimes what I might observe in other people. And so, you know, take what you can from it. But to me, the biggest red flag that I've noticed lately is the people that come through with this whole series of, I'm going to tell you how it really is, and this is the real correct version, and actually this is right, this is wrong, and you've all had it the opposite way. And by the way, let me educate you on all of it and tell you, you know, what's really going on. To me, those individuals that like pose themselves in that manner should be like, that's the biggest red flag in terms of just something that is authentic or not, you know, whether it's real or not. Maybe the dude had a lot of really, really real experiences. To me, it looks like kind of a program that got installed. And then also some real experiences, which usually come hand in hand. You know what I mean? They're going to give an equal, maybe not equal, but there's going to be a proportional amount of authenticity and inauthenticity, and mixing the two together is really what hooks people. And so, you know, I think part of our human journey is the understanding that everyone has a little key. We all have our own piece of the puzzle. Everyone has their own individual part to play. No one comes in here with all the answers, especially when it comes to matters of non-physical occurrences. You know, like everything that's taking place in the realm that we cannot see is completely open to the interpretation of every single living being. And I think one of the things that kind of concerns me, which I think is, you know, clearly it's like a power game that I think a lot of people go through, is for some individuals that might have a more clear view of it at times, I think that people, they will settle for someone else's viewpoint, when the reality is we have the ability right now to tune into it in your own way, to literally find the truth out. And it doesn't mean that I have all the answers to that either, because I'm figuring it out for myself. But anyway, it'll just get more and more angular and awkward as long as I rant about it. Sorry. Anyway, don't eat for 10 days, and then do a really wild manic live stream and find out what kind of crazy things you say. You know what, Joyce? Joyce, you're damn right. For real. Thank you. It is definitely a matter of perspective. That's a literal truth in this scenario. Oh, nice. Thank you, Alexis. She says Jesus is monitoring the disclosure community for sure. And I know you meant that authentically, and I totally agree with that. What I also think is, and you know, thank you for opening a fun door. There are many, many fake versions of this Jesus frequency going around, of the Archangel Michael frequency going around. It's a very interesting thing. Sometimes it feels very much like the offshoot of another, you know, kind of mind virus thing. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to avoid going down the AI Jesus timeline discussion today. And get ready, guys. I'm gonna click over on my Facebook list again. I'm gonna be checking Facebook right here on my own live stream. And so if you're hanging out with us and you're still conscious and you're still aware, share this video on social media. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe, put a like out there. It's definitely been helping. I genuinely appreciate you guys helping with that. It's the first time we've seen a little bit of movement in a while. So yes, here we go. Data point number 3, the natural portal system. So I believe it was, and here's the thing, I was gonna pull it up, but our refrigerator broke before this live, so I didn't get a chance to pull it up. But I think I'm pretty sure it was Tyler Koala that was posting this video the other day. It might have been a search he did, It might have been somebody else's. I don't actually know what it was. I just like watched it like visually, of course, and didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't read any of the content. I just watched the video. Classic, classic social media, Facebook style, right? But what I took from it was that he was kind of, or whoever created the video, I think it might have been Tyler. They had identified what appeared to be, or what could possibly be an entrance to what we might call an inner earth portal. Maybe just an underground, maybe we could call it a base. I don't know what it was, but I did actually, for some reason, there's certain things that will cross your path, and it's like you'll grab onto an energy. And that was a thing that was really, really, it was almost like it wanted to be viewed. And so this is another awkward lane change. This time we're going to the left side of the freeway. So we're going to go over here. And we're going into just kind of the further exploration of the remote viewing kind of process and journey that I go through, which I have to say, before I get into what I kind of viewed on that, I am clearly not a professional remote viewer, although it is a tool that I use on an everyday basis in the work that I do. I do not necessarily make it a point to kind of view larger consciousness or kind of historical or world related events. I think that I'm the type of psychic that is much more suited to working internally on a multidimensional level or maybe we could even call on a microscopic level, because for some reason for me, it's very, very easy for me to remote view internally. Well, I shouldn't say easy. I feel that I have just learned to do that a lot more effectively than I have things in the outward world. So I say this as somewhat of, well, I shouldn't even say somewhat, as a professional, but as a professional that is speaking about an area that's not necessarily my area of expertise. And so that said, that was an awkward disclaimer, right? Talk about one of the most unnecessary disclaimers ever. Anyway, and so but what I do with a lot of things, which is probably why I get really, really opinionated about certain things, because like certain things I'll view them and it's like I will be able to see a pathway, or what I call a pathway or a stream of energy or some element of authenticity. And so having said that, what did I perceive upon watching that little video? And I don't know, maybe there was audio with it, maybe there was writing with it, but actually what I did perceive was that the area that was being shown within that video was an area of very, very high activity. I cannot say that that specific opening or that anomaly within that video or whatever it was, a photograph, I cannot say that that represented what I would call necessarily a portal to the inner earth. But what I did feel very, very, it was like almost instant. Well, I shouldn't say almost, it was literally instant. As soon as I looked at it, I was like, whoa, there's something here. Okay, let's look closer. Let's be real. Sometimes that can be an example of a projection. I have to be real. I have to be totally authentic as a person that does this every day. Sometimes that's an example of a projection. So the practice that I have learned to do through definitely trial and error is it's like I will sit with an image. I will sit with a sort of process or something that I will view psychically. And it's like you'll just sort of watch it over and over again. Kind of like, like, sounds dumb, like a TikTok thing or like a reel on Facebook or on Instagram. And you know how sometimes or like a meme will roll through and you'll realize you're just sitting there watching it loop, boom, boom, over and over and over and over again. What I have observed is that upon watching things, it's like almost like when I am remote viewing something authentic, it seems as though upon allowing it to continue to play, I can like zoom out, kind of like you're zooming away from an image. Now, still, let's be real, that doesn't necessarily make it a sign of something authentic. But what it did teach me, having done that over and over and over again, is that when I do look at something energetically like that and that process takes place, that usually signals that there is more to be found and more to be seen. And so I'm grossly over explaining this for some reason. But anyway, what I came up with upon viewing that place was that that was an area of high activity. The specific anomaly that was viewed did not necessarily represent what we would call an inner earth portal, but it would probably be, in my opinion, a really, really good example of one of, and this is the term that I saved from this sort of viewing, one of the emanations, that's the key word that I was given, an emanation of part of what we might call the organic or natural portal system that's already in existence on the Earth plane. Now, here's the thing. Maybe if that was a portal, it could have been an Earth portal. But I just want to say from a public perspective that's a thing that will come through, and it's like, boom, there's a hit that takes place. And so as I'm drooling on myself here, I invite you guys to really start looking into things on a much deeper level. And when I say looking into it, I don't mean necessarily that you're going to, start researching it and, start reading about it. When I say look into it on a deeper level, it's like take a piece of information that comes in and just sit with it, stare at it, feel it, look at it, allow its energy to permeate, feel it, kind of play it through in your mind's eye over and over again like a story. Yes, there's a great learning process that comes with that, a huge learning process. We got to learn about all kinds of signals and sort of little tapes and thought forms that play out in your mind. But over time, what you will learn, and I guarantee, I shouldn't say guarantee, there's very few absolutes when it comes to physical or non-physical energy and psychic stuff, but I feel very strongly that those that devote themselves to the process of peering deeper, another word we could use would be scrying. Those that continue to use the process of scrying, which is where you will be peering into the energy, not into the surface layers, into the deeper levels, or the deeper layers of a thing, what you will find is inevitably you will start to get different messages, different cues, experiences, sometimes emanations of other people that have been in that physical place. And so one of the emanations that was shown to me was that was a really, really good example of a place where, maybe a person would walk into a portal and never come out again. I don't know where it would lead to. But I will say one thing, and then I'll move off of this, because I don't know. Sometimes I get self-conscious going into some of these things, which is kind of silly because I literally do it every day. But you know how I think that's how it is for everyone. But yeah, a really, really good example of probably a natural portal system in action. Thank you, KM. Sorry, guys. I see your comments there as I'm on an epic rant. I should probably try to pull it up. My plan was to have it ready because I wanted to show it. And, as you already heard, things got weird before this. But you can definitely find it. What's up, Anne-Marie Morales here? How's it going? You came right at the right time. We just passed all of the awkward nonsense, and now we're going into awkward triggering nonsense. Get ready. Anyway, thank you, Mara Moonflowers. Good to see you. I'm really appreciating learning there are those possibilities. Absolutely. They definitely are. Definitely are. What's up, Moniac? Thanks for hanging out. Watchers Talk, how's it going? Good to see you around our part of this neighborhood. This is a cool channel, you guys, that I've been watching a lot lately. Which is weird. I've been in a lot of other people's chat rooms lately. Sometimes that's an awkward thing, but I just kind of roll through and hang out. So I would encourage you guys all to check out that channel as well. We're probably, maybe we'll do a thing soon. It's good to see your face around these parts. What's up, Shannon Legros? Good to see you again. No matter how far we connect to nature or the cosmos, we are only one perspective point of the observation of the infinite. Thank you. That's a very profound statement. Anyway, natural portal system in action. As far as I can tell, I think that we are going to be experiencing a greater uptick just in the appearance, in what some people would call, just portal activity. For those of you guys that follow the work of David Paulides, if you want to check out David Paulides, he does the I read 2 of his books and I can't even remember the series or the name of the series. My Lord. Anyway, his website is Can-Am Missing Project, I believe, something like .com. I'm massacring all of his stuff, but anyway, David Paulides, as a lot of you guys have already heard, has been studying just the random disappearances in national parks and other places of the world where people will literally, it's like you'll turn your back and they literally, there you go, Joyce Hartman, what's up? She got it. Thank you. You know what, missing 411. Thank you. Thank you. Missing 411. I think that what we saw within that video that showed up. Thank you, Cassandra. She put the link in there. Hopefully it works. I hope the link system's working. Is that I think that's what might have been shown in that video. And here's the crazy thing about it: not even necessarily the thing that he was zooming in on. It was like the energy of the region. I guess if I got to be totally authentic in what I was shown, was that it wasn't necessarily the anomaly, it was the energy of the region. And so if anyone can figure out where that is, that might be one of those places where you'll go walk into a portal and never come out. Which I guess I already said it, or maybe I meant to say it. But if that ever happens to me, you guys, I have told my wife this, I've told my son, I've told all the people in this world that actually matter to me, and I'm going to tell you guys too, because you're part of this weird soul group as well. If I ever do happen upon a portal, seriously, like if I ever, let's say, just randomly say, I know it's like, fairy tale world details, but I'm walking down the street and this portal opens up, I guarantee you I'm going to go through it. I will definitely go through it. So just in case I suddenly, disappear, it's probably because I went through a portal. I just pray to God that it's not a portal to I don't know, somewhere that sucks. I was trying to think of a place to throw out there, but we didn't get one fast enough. But if I do spot a portal, I'm going through it. Even if the portal opened up on this here live stream, I would definitely do it. Tell me, please, in the chat, if a portal opened up in your bedroom, or let's say, one morning I was driving to Starbucks and I stopped at a red light and I looked to my left and a portal opened, wherever it opens, it doesn't matter. Would you go into it? That's really, really, really important. I really need an answer. We got 46 people in our live stream audience. Thanks for hanging out with us. Tell me, please, would you go through the portal? We don't know where it's going. I mean, we really don't. We don't know where the portal's going. We don't know where it's going. But they are literally everywhere. They're all over the world. Boom, right here. Oh, where'd it go? I was trying to grab a comment. Boom, portals do exist. They are definitely there. Absolutely. People have been in them. They have observed other people in them. I think it stands to reason that one of the ways we, everyone knows this by now. One of the ways we actually travel the cosmos is through the natural network, the portal system that is existing. It's been referenced in all kinds of stuff. You guys have heard these things before, but anyway. Okay, we got some answers. Let's see. Who's going through the portals? So one of these days, we're going to be hanging out at some event, you guys, and this huge portal is going to open. And then we'll see who really has their shit together, right? A whole bunch of people went through a portal at an event and they never came back. Okay, we got some yeses. Teresa Berger, boom, she would go through the portal. Okay, nice. Okay, we got a real adventure. Joyce Hartman says, hell to the no. I respect that. I do respect that. I think that Honora might not go through the portal. Maybe she wouldn't. I hope that she would go with me, but it's okay. It's okay if you don't want to go. Honestly, I think the more logical answer is to probably not go. The more emotionally responsible answer is to say, no, I shouldn't just jump into a multidimensional hole and I don't even know where it leads. Teresa Berger, yep. Sherry, definitely yes. Okay, watchers talk. What's up? Yep. He's in. Okay, cool. Miss Liz, are you gonna go through the portal? Roxanne Victor, yep, she's going through. Okay, cool. Oh man, we got a really good portal team rolling here. Robin Thomason's coming. Okay, Mara's probably smart. Thank you, Mara. The voice of reason. Don't go jumping into a multidimensional hole. We don't know where it's going. KM is rolling. Okay. Cool. What's up, Libby Siever? Thanks for rolling through. We're going to be jumping through a portal as a group. You turned up on a random weird live stream, and it turns out we were actually going through a portal. Okay, we got another yes. We got Marcus. Cool. Nice. Right on. Thanks for hanging out, Marcus. Oh, Cassandra says no. Wow. Here's the thing. I might not. I get it. I also get why you wouldn't go. If my son was younger, I would probably stay. Honestly, I'd be like, there's no way I'm not going through that thing. I have all kinds of, you know what I mean? Maybe I'm at the stage where it's like, it's cool, I could go, everybody's okay. And so I get it, I get it. But also I think that when I make this imaginary timeline in which we enter the portal, it's not a permanent one. Somehow in the timeline script that we're writing, we come back successfully. So it's not a permanent one. But anyway, boom. Anne Marie says, I have a friend who traveled through an anomaly driving home. Even her dog reacted. The question is, Anne Marie, are you going to go through the portal? Jehudi, what's up? Yes, he's going, or she. Totally. Joyce says the sun's a portal. You know what? You are absolutely correct. It definitely is. It definitely is. We were talking about that earlier on the Third Eye Salon video that we did. If anyone wants to check it out, check them out as well. Check out Third Eye Salon channel, and definitely check out Watchers Talk. Definitely, and I mean that very, very sincerely. But Robin says, yeah, you take. Okay, cool. You could. I sure hope you can take your dog. I don't see why you couldn't take your dog. Cool. Okay, who else is going through the portal? We need yes or no. Who's going through? Boom, girl and her bong back once again. How's it going? Yeah, so she's going through the portal. Okay. Oh, Dana Blazing, we got a person in Facebook land. You know what? That's the most realistic answer, as I awkwardly drill on myself on my own live stream. Dana, that's probably the most that is, yeah, based on the feeling, because I have to be real. It would be amazing if a portal opened up right next to me. I would love that. But if I felt this feeling of guttural fear and negativity coming from it, I can probably guarantee that something within me would be like, hey, don't go. You know what I mean? So maybe not. So okay, girl and her gong's going. Jace, is it a portal to LA? I don't think it is, dude. It's a port. We're literally going multi-dimensional. Don't worry, we'll come back. Kind of like Rick and Morty, maybe. Maybe it's a Rick and Morty scenario. Shannon LeGros, and she needs a few things. You're right. You're right. Not without a few. Actually, that's even man. Some of you guys, I can tell you've really thought this out in a really, really good way. Jehudi, okay, we know you're in. Ellen Myers, she's in. Okay, cool. Right, Belinda S., as well. Very, 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 very smart. Very smart. Okay, we have an answer from Anne Marie. I'd have to take a peek in. Huh. I don't know. I don't know if that's allowed. I don't know if you get to stick your head in the portal and decide if it's right for you, Maybe. Maybe. Who knows? How do I know? Because I guess we'll go there. A lot of you guys have already heard fragments of the story, but one of the kind of pivotal early stage awakening experiences that I was having, for me, I think the sort of portal stage, it sounds like a dumb thing to say, but it was like a portal stage, was late summer 2015. A lot of you guys have all heard the story before. Some of you have not. We'll talk about it again in its totality in a later date. But after this incredible crown chakra opening and well, honestly, walk-in kind of soul unbraiding experience that I had at that stage, there was a period for actually about a whole year afterward where it was like my crown chakra was so incredibly open, and not in a good way, mind you. It was not necessarily blissful. It was also very, very triggering, very difficult, very wounding. But there was a stage, I would say, I believe, I'm trying to be accurate with my own personal timelines. And honestly, I feel like it was around or very early 2016. Not that it even matters at this point, but for some reason it's important to me to try to preserve my understandings of the closest to when exact things occurred. But there were a number of mornings. There was two in particular, and then I think I became conscious of a third, which is weird because things happen for me in threes. They happen for a lot of us in threes. But there were these days in which, as I was waking up, and I don't know what the dream was, I don't know what was going on prior to this experience, but as I was waking up in the morning, I would physically see myself and feel it and hear it. And by feeling, I mean, I would actually feel this sort of, it was like a liquid and a fuzziness and kind of a little bit like a smell. If I was going to even call a smell, I would say maybe a little bit like the smell of rain, or like a, man, it's so weird to talk about this now. But there was a series where I would wake up in the morning and it was like I would be coming through what looked like a shimmering green and blue kind of watery portal, but it was a horizontal one, and it was right above the bed. It was right above the bed in the house that I was living in at the time. And it was like, as I was waking up, I would watch myself come through, and there was like this almost like a sound that would occur. It was bizarre. And so I know for a fact that that occurred 2 times, because I remember the second time it happened, I was like, oh my God, again? What was that? And then I believe it could have been me just thinking of it in a very determined way, but I believe there was a third time in which I became aware of it later, like after it happened. I don't mean like days later, but like within moments, like after I had already re-entered. It was like almost like I looked up and there was like a, but I have to say that part that I just said is an example of what I would call an incomplete or partially formed memory. I like to be specific about like the layers of kind of specificity when I'm talking about those things. And so technically, I already have been through a portal a couple times. But Joyce says there are death portals. There definitely are, man. I am with you on that one. She 73 says, yeah, no, that's a smart one. We got a lot of very emotionally mature people. Meyer says, when you're ready, they appear. Okay, there we go. We got an answer from Miss Liz. I check it out and follow my heart. Good. That's the wise choice. Terry Lynn says, nope. Totally. Thanks for your comments, everybody. What's up, Cheryl? How's it going? Would you go through the portal if it appeared suddenly next to you? Maybe you already answered that. I'm scrolling through the chat, guys. Okay, so Cassandra agrees. If we're coming back, then she's going, okay, good. That's a good sign. I was hoping that you would go. Definitely. Totally. Alyssa Marie, would you go through the portal? That's what we need to know. Would you go through the portal? Watchers Talk says fear is an illusion. I'm jumping in. I agree, definitely. I would say, any time a portal opens, that's a perfect chance, Not really. I don't know. Maybe that's a crazy statement. We're just kind of hanging out and staying weird here tonight. Oh, there she is. What's up, Cheryl? So you don't think you went in? Okay, cool. Parallelogram. Very, very interesting. They are definitely out there, you guys. I know it's kind of like a spiritual buzzword at this stage, but the portal system within our physical realm is alive, and it is wild, it is active, and we're going to learn a lot more about it in years to come. I don't think it's necessarily what we would call part of the natural process of disclosure. I think there's a natural disclosure, and then there's this sort of organized disclosure thing that everyone always likes to talk about as being a necessity. When the reality is, it's kind of us. We actually are the ones that have to do everything in this life cycle. Anyway, we're gonna find out. Okay, I'm gonna scroll down to the bottom of the chat. Oh, cool. What's up, Bianca? How's it going? Good to see you. She's going through the portal. I had a feeling Bianca would be going through the portal. Bianca, if you can, please post your. Well, you're on Facebook, so it might only show up on the Facebook side. But guys, Bianca's an incredible healer and shaman. Definitely a person that I recommend seeking for spiritual counsel and healing. And I mean that very, very sincerely. And so if you guys on YouTube are probably not, so you will see it on the screen. But yes, Miss Bianca Rainbow, good to see you around here. Good to see you around these parts. And so cool. So we had a pretty good portal party. I think there's going to be a lot of people going through this portal. There's going to be a lot of people that stay here, which is smart. We need somebody to kind of send a rope in to pull everybody out, like in Poltergeist when she was stuck in, there's a TV, right? In Poltergeist. Did they send a rope in? I don't know. I think I'm mixing that up with a Family Guy episode. Am I? I might be. Thank you, Belinda. How's it going? Now we're all going to see one. I sure hope that we do. I mean that very sincerely. Absolutely. Thank you, Cam. She says, lots of people talking about CERN opening portals. Man, they certainly are. I do think that that's. I guess I'll sort of weigh in on that really briefly again, and then we're going to go on to our other data point here. But I definitely do think that that is part of the byproduct and part of the intention of what's been going on over there at CERN. I guess where I kind of differ from certain people, and here's the thing: it kind of already got confirmed, is that I just I think it's been kind of it's been in, well, weird articulation part there. It has been active more than we think, meaning that I believe that there were elements of that Hadron Collider that had been turned on and off and were tested and were used. There was like lower level runs. There was kind of other stuff they were doing with it. Somehow it just didn't feel authentic that that was some sort of a ceremonial reactivation. It was almost like that was the ceremony, but the thing had already taken place. And I think that one of the byproducts of that is that, yeah, it's definitely going to open up portals. But I think that mankind is very egotistical to think that we are so powerful that we can use a piece of man-made technology to open up such a portal that would fundamentally alter the energy on the Earth plane. And I just don't believe that that's a thing that they're going to be able to accomplish with it. I believe that that may be part of their intention. There's a bunch of, kind of worldwide, nefarious agenda things that would come along with it that I think are definitely real. It's definitely part of the plan. But I think it's very, I feel that the people that have created it and that are running CERN are just, something has been overly inflated, and the actual, what's the word I'm trying to find here, everybody? You guys can tell when I get tongue tied. But the actual outcome of it is going to be nothing as bad as we think. I just don't see it as a world-ending piece of technology. I think it's something that if it was linked with what we would call a more spiritual element, meaning that I guess if you want to get technical, I think there's some like fundamental building blocks or like cornerstones of energy that could be added to it. There are things that they could bring into play in the development and the implementation of their technology that I think could have an incredible example, but or incredible effect rather. But I just don't see it as some sort of world-ending piece of technology. I know that a lot of people subscribe to the idea that they opened, what was it, 2012, or one of the ideas was that they opened a portal that caused an end of the world timeline and everyone switched over to another one. I actually kind of believe that is a thing that can and did occur. I think that we've had a number of world resets, which I guess is now has a whole different connotation to it when you use that word. But we've had a number of like population-based resets or timeline shifts, or maybe we could call them ends of the world. I know people say there's been 5 or there's been 4. I do believe that there have been several, maybe 5, maybe 4, maybe more. I think it's part of the fundamental process that this Earth, this planet goes through when it's in a particular stage of a cycle, meaning that it's inevitable. It will always regenerate itself again. That's what they do. And so I do believe that there have been, world-ending cycles like that. But the part that I find hard grabbing onto is that, we created a portal. We strung together a bunch of physical, man-made, like very, very, and I realize it's, for some people it's the pinnacle of Earth-based science on a number of levels, but I think within the spectrum of consciousness and what's available in the physical and non-physical planes, we're going to look back on it like kids playing with Legos and going, look, I made the Lego version. It's like in 20 years we're going to, probably way less than 20 years, we're going to be in a whole other stage of understanding. A Hadron Collider will be like, oh man, remember the Hadron Collider? We're gonna look back on the Hadron Collider like we look at Y2K. You guys remember Y2K? I think most of the people that are in the audience base of this channel were definitely around for Y2K, so you guys will remember. You'll remember Y2K, which is to mean that it was essentially nothing, right? That was a fun time though, Y2K. Let's check your comments. Thanks everybody. So after we went through the portal, we went into the CERN timeline. Thanks, Oneida Shark. Recommend testing of opportunities, portals, beings, etc., all things by asking Jesus if this thing is of him. You know what? I mean this very sincerely. That is a very effective and rightful use of test, or a rightful method of testing spirit. Absolutely. Absolutely. You definitely can. Totally. Thanks for your comments, you guys. Thanks for hanging out. This live stream went in a really weird direction, didn't it? But maybe that's why we all come here. Anyway. Boom. Teresa Berger says, well, I'm experiencing the invisible predator moving thing. You know what? I have a feeling you are. That is definitely a thing. Apparently, there was some technology that was tested in my old hometown of San Diego, California, back in the late 1980s. That apparently was very much like the predator technology. It was talked about a lot back in those days. It was just like, who knows? It was a thing, but yeah, supposedly that's where some of that technology was tested. And not that it's true, but I was made aware of, I guess some years after that took place, that they were running tests with this kind of camouflage, this active camouflage gear, and some of the tests they were doing was they would bring them out in public places. And there was this canyon area of San Diego where supposedly they had been running tests of these like stealth suits. And now granted, I did not ever see such a thing, but through the many secondary channels, the social pathways will experience. It was just talked about very heavily to the extent that I think it was probably real. Because the thing is like once I left that area, I never, you know what I mean? It was only referenced in that place at that time. And so to me, it made sense. Another thing that was referenced in San Diego, I guess in like the early days, was what they call the active denial system, which for those of you guys that are familiar with it, it's the sort of crowd control device where it's essentially a satellite dish that they will aim at physical matter, and the frequency that's created by it causes you to feel as if your body is literally burning. Granted, I have not experienced such a thing, but it's definitely out there. Check it out for those of you guys that want to go down a fun wormhole. Active denial system. That was another thing they were testing in San Diego. Anyway, I don't know why I went down a Southern California road there for a minute, but anyway. What's up, Robin? She says, I didn't buy into Y2K. You know what's crazy? Here's the thing. I don't remember if I did or I didn't. I'm going to be real, since we're on a really fun, personal, strange, vulnerable path. I was doing a lot of drugs right at that stage of my life. Seriously. I was doing a lot of drugs. And I remember being somewhat excited about it, but I don't think that I ever thought it was the end of the world. It was almost like, yeah, let's see what's going to happen. Right on. The world's gonna end, man. It's all gonna stop. It was more of a novelty occurrence, we could say. More of a novelty occurrence. Boom. What's up, Jose? Every time they turn that thing on, Elon Musk has another kid. I know, right? What's going on with that? He has another kid, and then he's starting to become like oddly mutated in this really weird way. I mean, look, I'm just being real, man. I'm just being real. We've all seen the photos recently. There's some very strange kind of like, anatomical formation going on with this dude, which kind of, hey, lends to the idea, because I know it's a popular, it's a popular conspiracy, story that maybe he's an alien. Well, I don't know. After those photos of him hanging out on his yacht or the dock or whatever, it's like I'm starting to go, maybe. Just maybe. What if? But yeah. Anyway, Shannon says Elon is being cloned. I wonder, here's the crazy thing. There may be multiple versions of him. I'm definitely on board with that. I believe that it will. Pretty much everyone that's hung out on this live stream for a while will already know this, but I believe we will get disclosure about cloning far before we ever get some sort of official acknowledgement of all the hidden technologies and the ET disclosure that we want from the government. I think we will get disclosure about cloning very, very, very rapidly, probably in the next 10 years, if not sooner. I also called it. No, it's not that I called it. A lot of people did, but one of the sort of earlier predictions I was making about 2 years ago was that, in the next few years, men are going. And here we go. I'm going to get triggering for some people. Men are going to get pregnant. They're going to announce that that's a thing. And I remember like it sounded stupid at the time, and boom, lo and behold, look at us now. Um, you know, every now and then it's okay to say, I called that one, but I did. I definitely called that one. But not just me, a lot of us did. So I'm not gonna pat myself on the back too hard on that one. A lot of us saw that one coming. The other one I think I see is a cloning kind of announcement. I mean, it's already happened. It's well out there, but there's going to be a much more just a greater level of disclosure on how that's been going on in our world. So anyway, cloning timelines are for real. I was really heavily invested in just looking at all of the sort of cloning videos for a while, all of the cloning channels on YouTube, all of the Donald Marshall stuff. I mean, really, like that was during the stage where I would go down like this wormhole of research that would be like literally a month long every single day. Like, I mean? I would, those early stages of like your awakening journey where you were willing to become utterly and completely obsessed with a thing. Not that we're not like that now, although it takes a different form later on. But man, yeah, like the cloning centers and that whole thing, definitely. And here's the thing. I mean, we have received multiple layers of acknowledgement in many different formats through media, through television, through what we might call, so-called factual news outlets, to fiction. It's literally everywhere. Our world is littered with it, just as it is with a whole bunch of other things. It kind of depends on where you put your focus. But anyway, it's getting weird out there. Two cloning centers. One of the things that I actually, here we go. This was not on our data point list, but I'm going to go there. Somebody was talking about recently, I guess for those of you guys that follow the Andrew Basiago or Basiago, I don't know the preferred pronunciation of his name, but a lot of us are familiar with Andrew whatever. Insert proper pronunciation of his name. And his testimony or his experiences with what some people call the CIA jump room programs. And I remember him talking about in one of his interviews about the sort of jump, or one of the jump rooms, which I'm pretty sure I have the exact address wrong now, but it was like 999, I don't know, La Brea Avenue. I don't think that's what it is. It was a different road. But it turns out that during the time we lived in LA, before Honora and I moved into an apartment in another area, she actually lived within, honestly, about a quarter mile of that building that they were talking about as being one of the jump rooms. And as far as I can recall, because I remember checking it out later on, and I remember driving past her, and I was like, "Whoa, that's that real that's the address that he was talking about." Damn. And here's what's crazy. I believe it might not be now, but at the time, it was actually the video game developer Ubisoft. For those of you guys that follow the video game world, Ubisoft, I think, oh man, maybe it was at Ubisoft. I probably have the company wrong, but it was one of just a big time video game developer was housed in that building for a time. And it would kind of make sense if it was Ubisoft. I know a lot of you guys that follow this channel probably won't give a shit about the gaming world, but one of the standardized experiences in one of Ubisoft's main games is a chair that you would sit in. And when you sit in the chair, you travel to other timelines and other versions of yourself. Literally travel through time with another version of yourself. And so it's just an interesting synchronicity that the place that he was calling out as being a jump room was, for a time, it might still be. Some of you guys can look it up. I think it's just south of there, or just west of the airport in South LA, the main airport there. Anyway, yeah, turns out there's a weird synchronicity there. And yeah, I think it was probably real. Not that I necessarily subscribe to Andrew Basiago's entire story, but it was weird because I do have to admit that there, as bizarre as it was, from a professional perspective, from a person that kind of looks at energy, and once again, just because you're a professional in something doesn't mean that you're doing it right. It doesn't mean you're doing it effectively. It doesn't, you know what I mean? It's not always a mark of, authenticity. But as a person that does this on a professional level, he's one of the experiences that the aspects of it, and I don't mean the whole story, but you'll find when you start looking at non-physical energy that certain statements and stories that people will have, sometimes you'll hear it or you'll feel it and it just goes in one ear and out the other, and you'll sort of body will react to the humor or the bizarreness of it. And then sometimes it's like you'll sort of hear a story or a testimony or an experience, and it's almost like you can feel that there's more attached before and after. It's almost like sometimes that energy will reach you, and in your own way you can kind of grab onto your own version of it. What do I mean by your own version of it? Almost like this kind of internalized slideshow will sort of play inside your body, which for some people would be regarded as a red flag, meaning that you would perceive that as your mind creating conclusions and writing yourself into a very fanciful story. But on another level, what that can also be is you attuning. That wasn't the word I was trying to use. You connecting with a strand or a wavelength of non-physical energy. And what I've noticed with people when I perceive them as telling things that are maybe more truthful, because I think frequency of truth is different for every living being. We all have our own version of it, but you'll find when people are speaking from a place of authenticity within their experiences, that it's almost like there's more content. And you could imagine, let's say if you were telling a story in your own life about a wild experience that you had, surely that was not the entirety of it. There was what you were doing before, there was what you were doing after, there was what you ate for breakfast that day, there was what you did the next day, there was how you thought of it and unpacked it and talked about it in the days after. So there was tape before and there was tape after. There was an experiential timeline that existed along with that experience. And so one of the things that I've noticed when I've heard people's testimonies, and earlier I was talking in a very veiled, non-specific, angular way about certain people in the secret space program community that are suddenly elevated to just heights of notoriety. You will notice with some of those people that it's almost like a story or an experience will be relayed from their being or their body. And it's like there's no before and after. There is only that momentary burst of energy. And here's the thing, even when you receive that little burst of energy, there'll still be a feeling. There will still be a reaction. In some cases, there will even be an aspect of your own experience that grabs onto it because it's very similar to other things you've heard. But there might not necessarily be the totality of that experience as a timeline, meaning that when you really examine it, you'll notice that it was just something that was created. And so anyway, I'm probably articulating this in a very, very sideways and strange way, but I really invite you guys to look deeper into the just people's energy, look deeper into their testimonies, look deeper into the text-based things that people are writing on social media, especially text as well. Since we're going down that crazy road, you guys are going to notice this as well. I know a lot of you guys already are. People will respond to you with, 2 lines of text in a text message, and so much more emotional content will be relayed along with it. That is, in just case in point, one of the greatest examples of how our own energetic or telepathic or intuitive sensitivity to communicate non-physically is opening up. In fact, it'll blow your mind. Start looking into those messages, read in between the lines, which I know if you're watching this channel, chances are you already are doing it, probably on a shockingly effective level. But anyway, we definitely derailed from our data points, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me on this strange single player edition of this wild live stream. Thank you, everyone. Please do, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. We're going to hang out for just a little while longer, but please let me know if you guys have any questions. What's been going on? What's up, Pia Kristen Thorsud? Thanks for rolling through. Boom. Love Jumper movie. You know what's weird, Rebecca B? Thanks for saying that. I guess I will make an embarrassing disclosure about myself. Some of you guys says this has been an evening of embarrassing disclosures, has it not? I seem to be unable to watch movies, I would say, for the past few years. I would say probably since around, I really noticed it in 2017. There was a period of time, it was 2017, in which I lived with my sister in Los Angeles for a brief time, which was a very healing and restorative time in my life post divorce and just starting this chapter that I'm in right now. And what I had realized at that stage of my journey was that it was like all of a sudden when I started doing the work that I'm doing now, and I don't believe they're necessarily related, but it was like I couldn't really ever watch TV or movies anymore. And that sounds like a weird blanket statement, like, I just can't watch, but it's like I can't, and I don't know why. It's like I'll try to watch it, and it's like my mind tunes out. I get a weird headache. I can't focus on it. For some reason, YouTube stuff, like if it's in short bursts, like stuff like this, where there's a layer of interaction, which is why now I'm constantly watching people's shows in their chat rooms, and because somehow that allows me to stay engaged with what's on the screen. And so I think that's just kind of more my own awkward energy. That's like people talk about all these movies and shows, and I'm like, dude, I want to watch that, but it's like I can't. I don't know why. Especially a lot of the Star Wars stuff. I was, and I guess I still am, definitely a like major lifetime Star Wars fan. And for some reason, it was like all of those forms of media and entertainment kind of drained out of my life when I started doing this work that I do now professionally. Which I wouldn't say is necessarily a good thing, because I think we definitely need the humanness and the fun and the weirdness and sometimes the boringness of our regular world and the human things. I think it's not necessarily too good to be removed from third density life, but it's definitely a thing I have experienced. Thanks, Right Chick. She says, I watch no contemporary movies. Here, it's funny that you would say that. It's funny that you would say that, because I think you and I are kind of the same in that sense, because, while I can't watch any movies, I will randomly every few months or so, I think there's been once or twice this year where it's like, I will put on a really weird old movie. In fact, there's one movie that I always go back to and continually watch. Since we're going down such a weird personal road today, I will tell you this will be so weird, but one of my all-time favorite movies is Nights of Cabiria by Federico Fellini. For those of you guys that are familiar with the filmmaker Fellini, really bizarre, strange, weird filmmaker, made a lot of really just interesting films. But for some reason, I always return to Nights of Cabiria. If you were a government agent profiling me or an obsessive person, you could go watch Nights of Cabiria, and you would probably learn a lot about me in a weird way. Not that I'm anything like the characters in the movie. There's just something about the movie that I just like. I just understand it. Federico Fellini, him as a whole. Another really good Fellini movie is Satyricon, which will be hard for some people to watch. It'll be a hard one for you guys to watch. You'll be like, what the hell? What's going on? This is really creepy and weird. Yes, it definitely is. Definitely is. Satyricon, Nights of Cabiria. Although Nights of Cabiria is the one that I definitely always go back to. Nights of Cabiria, over and over and over again. And then there was another one. Oh, and then here, I'm going to mention this one, and I'm going to tell you, if you're not familiar with this movie, you can watch it for free. I think it's on BitChute or something like that. But I believe that it's one of the most important movies that you can watch for a spiritual seeker, for a person going through the awakening journey. I believe that some people are going to be like, what? If you've seen it, you're going to be like, damn. But I believe that everyone needs to watch Holy Mountain. Holy Mountain by Alexander Jodorowsky. Holy Mountain, definitely. And here's the thing, for those of you guys that are willing to look up Holy Mountain, you can watch it tonight for free online, the whole thing. And you're going to get triggered by it. You're going to be really triggered within 15 minutes. You're going to be like, what? This guy, Matthew, told me to watch this movie. What the hell? This is so weird and just creepy and gross. And yes, it is. You're going to get very triggered by it. Stay with it. Stay with it. It's going to get triggering. Oh, it's triggering in a lot of places. But it is brilliant. It is a brilliant, truly brilliant piece of artistic filmmaking. My God, man, I'm excited to hear that at least one of you guys on this live stream is going to go watch Holy Mountain tonight. You're going to watch Holy Mountain tonight and you're just going to go. And then by the time it's over, you're going to be like, yes, that's me. I get it. You'll be somehow like you connected with it. And then you'll end up telling people like, oh my God, this movie, Holy Mountain, you're going to be triggered by it. And so it gets really creepy and weird. It's basically like it's kind of like an LSD trip, but to describe it as such is a gross misrepresentation. Just stay with it and don't get triggered. It's very extreme. Mara Moonflower says, will it be awful before sleep? You know, it kind of depends on your level of sensitivity. I'm going to admit that I'm the kind of person where it's like, I have no problem watching very, very triggering. And I don't mean that there's brutality in it, but there's just a lot of really creepy kind of symbolism. And there's just things that for people who are able to kind of peer deeper into the artistic value of triggering art and bizarreness will find a very, very deep value in it. For those that are easily turned off by those things and do not desire to look more deeply into like bizarre alchemical spiritual symbology in the form of a strange hallucinogenic movie, some people will be like, this is dog shit. And, you know, you might be right. But in my opinion, you know, in my own personal world, I think it is absolutely brilliant. And I think it's something that should be watched by everyone, even if only to watch it and go, man, that was crazy. I can't believe that guy told me to watch that movie. What's wrong with Matthew? Although I don't think anyone would say that, but some of you would be like, damn, you know, it's a weird one. Anyway, I'm like overblowing Holy Mountain on such a crazy level, you guys. Sorry. I'm like overselling it and making it sound really crazy. But anyway, yeah. Holy Mountain. Watch that one. Watch Knights of Cabiria. And then I guess after it, what's the third most watched movie for me? Probably Blade Runner, which is for a lot of us. But, you know, I discovered Blade Runner in the 80s, actually. I was around in the 80s. And Blade Runner definitely came around. And I just, you know, like a lot of us, it just made sense. And it became kind of, you know, one of the pivotal early life experiences. And so anyway, I don't know how we got on the movie timeline, you guys, but we definitely did. We definitely did. There's going to be a few people looking up Holy Mountain tonight. It's definitely out there. You're going to love it. What's up, Pepcorn? How's it going? Thanks for rolling through. How do you feel about David Lynch's work? Oh, man. David Lynch, I think, is one of the most important filmmakers of our generation, or technically the generation before us, depending on how old you are. Strangely enough, you guys, where we lived in Los Angeles prior to moving to Florida, if you've seen the movie Lost Highway, for those of you guys that have seen the David Lynch movie Lost Highway, you will know that at certain stages of the movie, the main character, the younger guy, works at a service station, where he kind of is the beginning point for a lot of crazy shit that goes on in the movie. But he works at a service station. And it just so happens that where that was filmed was literally around the corner from where we lived in Los Angeles. Like, you could walk out of our house, turn the corner, walk down 2 blocks, and be right there, right at that service station from Lost Highway. And so here's the thing. When we moved in there, I didn't realize that's what it was. But for some reason, Honora and I watched Lost Highway while we were living there. And I realized that really the essence of Lost Highway is kind of mirroring a number of experiences that both Honora and I had. What experiences am I talking about? If you've watched Lost Highway, you'll be like, what? but the kind of essence of it is that there is a person. All the main characters in that movie go through a body shift. They go through a timeline shift. He switches into another version of himself and then has to deal with the bizarreness of it, or he switches into a different body. And granted, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that takes place in Lost Highway. Honestly, it's an incredible movie. Thank you to who brought up David Lynch. There you go. See, you guys, I am interested in certain elements of third density media. I definitely am. But oh man, David Lynch, brilliant, brilliant. But I guess I'm also one of those people that thrives on nonsensical art. Like I will just eat it up. The less linear it is, I will just follow it. Like the movie Naked Lunch, or not movie. Well, I guess the movie as well. The book Naked Lunch is a good example of that. Boom. Anyway, thanks for going down the movie road with me, guys. I'm glad somebody mentioned David Lynch. And so, yeah, that was right around the corner from where we lived during the stage of my life where I was uncovering the fact that I had gone through what is really, truly a physical timeline shift. And it's not just me. Pretty much, honestly, I would venture to say that nearly everyone watching this live has gone through the physical timeline shift process in this physical body. And you'll go through many others as well, but some people have really extreme versions of them. It just so happened that I was one of those people, and I did kind of switch, and not kind of, literally switched into another body. And there will be others, many, many others. I know that's, for some people that'll sound creepy, but it's one of the fundamental, points of our human journey, is the many archetypes and characters and personas and physical versions of ourselves that we will become. I think for most of us, where things get stuck and stop moving is when we stop allowing ourselves to change into another timeline or another version of us or another body or another persona. It's almost like it needs to happen. But anyway, totally. Somebody mentioned, where was it? Jupiter Ascending. I saw the word. Yeah, there it was. Watchers Talk. What's up? Still hanging out. Thanks for hanging out. Check out Jupiter Ascending. Definitely. You know what? Here's the thing. I remember when that movie came out, and I actually went inside in the movie theater when it came out. And what's crazy is it came out at the time of my life where I was not really tuned into what that was. And I remember going, whoa, that was really cool. There was real reptilians, dude. That was so awesome. And, I was just kind of entertained by the overall story, not even realizing at the time how much disclosure was in it. Since then, I have not watched it, other than the first time. Actually, no, I think I saw part of it on like a one of those afternoon kind of like movie channel things at one point when we had TV. But I definitely a cool movie. I have encountered, well, although I have had what I believe to be a physical reptilian encounter within what we would call the astral realms. I have definitely seen beings that are near, maybe not identical, but very, very similar in form to the reptilian beings that were shown in Jupiter Ascending. It's really, really, in my opinion, quite accurate in terms of a depiction. And so, anyway, thanks for hanging out, you guys. We're going to do a couple of other data points, and then we're going to roll out of here. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. Cam says there's a lot of shallow media out there. There certainly is. There certainly is. There it is. Pepcorn, how's it going? Yes, his films bleed into this reality in a weird way. They certainly do. They certainly do. I'm excited to hear about those of you that watch Holy Mountain on a future live stream. Some of you might get so triggered by Holy Mountain, you'll come back and unsubscribe and be like, I can't believe this guy told me to watch that movie. Although it's really good, so you will probably enjoy it. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I'm going to grab a couple more data points, then we're going to roll out of here. I'm trying to put a 2-hour cap on these live stream experiences. Please do let me know if there are any questions in the meantime. Please do let me know if there's any questions. I mean that sincerely. I will always say that. So our next data point is actually a question that I get a lot. And yes, my nose is totally running. Somebody commented on that. It's a weird thing that happens when I'm in live streams. There's like an energy starts to flow, and it's like I'll start drooling and weird kind of things happen. Some people out there will hear that and feel embarrassed for me, but I try to create radical self-allowance and just roll with it. But yeah, totally. And so our next data point for discussion, and I don't think we're going to get through all of them, so we'll save a few of them for next time. But our next data point for discussion is actually a question that I get a lot. This is a very, very common one. Not that this phrased in this exact way, but it is about the process of opening the third eye. And so this would be an example of me kind of pulling to the middle lane on the freeway. We were in the left side, depending on where in the world you live, maybe the right side. But we're going to pull into the middle lane, so we're reaching a more, realistic speed. But the third eye, how do you know when it's open? What is it actually like? I think that I may have had a very bizarre version of a third eye opening during the initial stages of my awakening journey. And everyone knows the story by now, but after having a massive crown chakra opening in 2015, when I really started kind of diving into elements of spirituality. And it wasn't because I decided I wanted to be a healer or a psychic. I was just trying to stop the craziness in my world. I was trying to figure out literally, I was like, what the hell's going wrong in my life? That something crazy happened to me. And right in the beginning, when this sort of activation journey started, I remember I was right when I started doing meditations. It was almost like they started together. I started meditating, boom. And what I noticed was that at that stage of my journey, it was so intensely activated that when I would focus on bringing my breath through the chakras in the body, and I was just barely starting to understand chakras, but it was like I was able to hear them and see them. And it sounds crazy to say this. It's not like there's a taste or a smell, but it's like that element of my senses was also awakened by the passage of energy through my body on a level that, like, even now, it's like a part of me wishes I could go back to that layer of sensitivity and activation. And another part of me doesn't, because it's like, I don't know how people can function in that state. I certainly could not function. Maybe it would be different now. Some people would argue that that level of sensitivity doesn't change. We just integrate it. So maybe I integrated that level of sensitivity, but it was so profound that I would move energy, or I would just focus and breathe energy through my body. And I remember the first few times that it really was noticeable when I was doing a meditation process and I reached the third eye. And it was like a chime and a sound and a vision went off in my mind and in my body. And it was like, it went, Ami. It was like a singing voice, which sounds so crazy to talk about it. The reason why I continue to talk about these things all these years later is because I know for a fact I am not the only one that has experienced such bizarre states of activation. At the time of my life, I did not know what it was. And had there not have been a few people that had gone through a similar thing and were like, don't go get on meds, don't go to the hospital, you're having an awakening, my life probably would have gone in a much different direction. But at that stage of the journey, it was like I would just focus on it. And because I was able to perceive and feel the third eye. And so for me, what I was able to learn at that stage, I don't believe I learned it then, but in looking back on my experiences in those early days, that's where I believe I pulled a lot of the data from the chakra classes and the manner through which we've been teaching how to work with these energetic layers of energetic anatomy, because it was like it was blown open for me on such a level that it was like I could taste it, I could see it, I could feel it. There were mornings, a lot of you guys heard this, I remember putting my hand on my arm when I woke up because I could see and feel this energy running through these passageways in my body. And that was how I learned what a meridian was, because I would like grab onto it and I realized that I could feel organs and experiences and emotions. But anyway, going back to the idea of the third eye, as the third eye activates for a lot of us, it's very, very different in how it operates than how we are trained to believe that it does. And yet at the same time, it is also very similar in what we are told. And so one of the things that I think I wanted to relay about the third eye when I was talking about it is that it's the process of opening the third eye for each one of us, I believe, is a thing that's going to happen, along this sort of path of the awakening journey, meaning as we learn to train and move our energy, it's inevitable. A lot of us are already in stages of great opening within the third eye. But the reason why I want to talk about it today is because I kind of want to define more of what it feels like when the third eye is open, which will sound very, very basic. Will sound very basic for a lot of you guys, but one of the things that people come to me for is to help them open the third eye. And then we'll come into a session and we'll look at it, and it's like, we'll, do this weird exam thing that I do with people. And it's like we will both, in the course of that session, realize, whoa, this is very, very open. There's a lot of energy passing through there. But the thing is, we've been taught what that feels like through other people's experiences. What I mean by that is everyone will experience the energy of the third eye in a little bit of a different way. But for most of us, you will experience your third eye as your own internalized mind's eye, meaning the area of visual creation internally, rather than externally. A lot of you guys that are watching this live stream are going to already know this. You're going to be like, yep, totally. That's literally what it is. But for those that are new, or those that are still in stages of understanding how the chakras activate and when, and what it's like when a chakra activates, the effects of it, while those are also very individual and subjective for each living person that experiences that energy, I think it's really important. And maybe this is maybe this is helping a few people, but by and large, I see a lot of people with very, very open, or I shouldn't say open, maybe even more specific, very operable, very, very operable third eye chakras in their body. Yet, it's not that they are actively using that, or that they have actively recognized the capability that they have there. And so within my own kind of journeys, within my own processes, what I discovered, I would say, I think it was like within the first year when I was doing clearings, which I didn't really talk about until later on because I didn't understand what it was that I discovered, I think in the first year when we were doing this full time, was that I would move energy through one area of the physical or non-physical body, and I would notice how, and this sounds like a no-brainer for people that will hear it now, I noticed how when I would work with one chakra, other ones would change in the same manner, maybe not the same manner, but the flow of energy would change at the same time, working with different places on the body. It's like you'd open up one doorway over here and another one opens up over there. And what I was able to figure out, or at least one of the things I was in the process, not that I have it exactly correct, but what I realized was that the chakras came in partners. Well, I shouldn't say partners, they're in pairs. Maybe we could call them in resonant pairs, much like the meridians. For those of you guys that have a little bit of meridian knowledge, you'll know they're also paired together, yin and yang. And so the chakra system, what I noticed was that they were connected in different ways. A lot of you guys know this by now. It's very well documented. I shouldn't say documented because I don't know that there's real documentation, but from an experiential, anecdotal point of view, there's a lot of information on how these energy centers are joined. But what we came to discover was that the throat and the solar plexus have a big linkage in between them. The crown chakra and what we call the thymic or high heart chakra have a very, very powerful linkage in between them. The third eye, and a lot of you guys already know this, guess where? The navel chakra have a very, very specific linkage along with them. The earth star chakra and the root chakra, very specific linkage. In addition, those are also places where the meridian body and the chakra body have kind of nodes or points of connection where two templates or more, maybe there's more because I think there's a number of layers of non-physical anatomy. We just, as humans, we might not have been able to perceive them yet, but most people work within meridians, the nadio complex, or the chakras. And so what we've been able to identify is there's places where they join. But anyway, getting back to the idea of the third eye opening or the third eye awakening process. Number one, I think if you're alive on Earth right now, it's an operable energy center for you. And I want to dispel the idea that, you have to go through all of these layers of spiritual teachings and healings to open up your third eye. Yes, you do on a certain level in order to properly perceive and use what might be some of the, the abilities that come with it. But for a lot of us already, you are going to be able to enter a state of activation in which this energy center can be used on a much different level. One of the tools that I use, which has great effectiveness, it's not the only one. I always got to do this weird disclaimer. It's not the only one. There are many, many ways to resonate or open the third eye. But because it's shown up in probably most of the sessions I've done over the past few months, maybe not so for the past few weeks, but over the past few months, over and over and over again, third eye, my third eye's blocked. There's no energy in my third eye. How do I open my third eye? I think there's an implant in my third eye. I think there's attachment in my third eye. I think somebody covered my third eye. These are all things that I have heard multiple times. And what we find is when we open up what some people would call the back doors or the other channels of energy that are connected with it, certain people are able to perceive the energy moving through those energy centers in a very different way. Here's a kind of a weird example of how I've noticed that works, especially with the third eye. Now, one of the things I picked up pretty early on, well, I shouldn't say early on. That's not correct. After a while, I noticed that in order to open one area, I needed to kind of sometimes close or open another one. And so what I found is with the navel chakra, and don't worry, I'm not the only one. They talk about this in pranic healing, which is a great modality, and other people. But it's like if you were able to, it's kind of like a cross breeze in a room. That's where I was trying to go with it. Thanks, whoever put that back in my head. I was trying to find that, but very much like a cross breeze. A lot of people will be in a very hot room, and you'll want to bring some air in there, and you'll open one window on one side of the room, and it'll kind of come, a little bit of air will come in. And then eventually you'll open one on the other side of the room and suddenly it can flow, very much like, light as well. Although light interacts very differently in that sense, it's like you'll open one side and get a little bit of light and you'll only perceive one part of it, but then you'll open the other end and you'll perceive it in a very different way. And so for those of you guys that are on a quest to learn more about how the third eye works, to learn more about processes in which you could open your third eye on a greater level so that you can perceive more energy visually, internally, inside your own kind of internal realm, which is where most of us experience the third eye. Some of us do experience it as an overlay, meaning that a lot of us third eye energy is not something you see in the outer world. You close your eyes and perceive internally. And the level to which the third eye is open is directly proportional to the level to which you are able to accurately perceive visually things internally within your mind's eye. Some people will see outwardly in the world. You will see spirits, you will see flows of energy. It is definitely a thing. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people will see it externally, but everyone uses it a little bit differently and everyone has their own version of it. Some people will never be able to perceive energy visually outside of the human body. I perceive it internally almost exclusively. It's been cool because I've also been able to see it outwardly in many different junction points. But for me, it's almost entirely internal and sentient. And what you'll realize is that upon kind of leaning into that, upon opening up the navel chakra, and this was the whole reason why I wanted to go into the chakra talk today, is because I want to give you guys, a lot of you guys already know these, but I want to give you guys 2 capsule phrases that you can use in your own meditations, in your energy work, in the work that you're doing with yourself. And you can even literally do this when you're driving your car to work in the morning. You will drive down the road, and not that this is the best place to do it, but you can literally use this. It's like a vibration that you will emit into your body. And so the one that I use for the third eye, which was given to me, and I believe other people on the earth plane have received this. I try not to take ownership over like non-physical things, because when you really look at it, how could you? It's a language. You know what I mean? Other people are going to create the same utterance and come to the same conclusions. Some of us will bring it out a little bit before others. You might have heard it from me first or someone else, but the capsule phrase that we use for the third eye is A Va Me. And so let me put it in the chat. A Va Me. There it goes. And so Ava Me is one that I use in probably most of the energy work that we do when passing through the third eye. When you want to emit a sound or a vibration from the body, for those of you guys that are familiar with cymatics or like resonant frequencies and how they'll sort of change the shape of things, you know, for those of you guys that have probably that Facebook video where they're sort of vibrating the table of sand, and as the frequency hit it in certain wavelengths, the shape would change. It's very much like that. And so Ava Me resonates, opens, and in my opinion, unlocks and clears the third eye. It does that through the conscious vibration that is created when you use that capsule phrase. And so Ava Me works very, very well with the third eye. And then also for those of you guys, so let's say you were to use that frequency or that capsule phrase and nothing would happen. And for some people, let's be real, based upon the density of energy in your body, it'll be a practice that you'll really need to stick with. Some people can use it, you know, on a very limited level and experience a vibration of it. But for most of us, non-physical energy is the thing that you will become acclimated to, that you will learn to work with. Some people activate into it instantly, but Ava Me is very, very effective at resonating or vibrating the third eye. And so let's say if, you know, maybe you needed to do an extra layer of that, or that you were like, well, how do I open the cross breeze? How do I open the back door? And that's where you will then connect with your navel chakra. And you can also use a phrase for the navel chakra, which is Do Chi Ro. I'm going to put that in the chat. Do Chi Ro. And so for some of you guys that have done private sessions with me, or it is actually on the energy clearing video that we did a month or so ago. What I did notice when I watched back the video is that the Zoom sound compression thing cut a lot of the tones I did. It was awkward. It's like Zoom sound thing cut in, and you know, everything was audible, but I would do a tone, and it's like, and so it would kind of cut it. But the way we use these is very much like it's like a full body vibration, and you will sort of take a deep breath in, connect with your third eye. Sometimes you can literally place your fingertips there, but usually you'll just bring your awareness to the third eye. You'll take a breath in, and Ava Me. Hopefully StreamYard allowed that vocal thing to come through, but it's like a deep body vibration. Some of you will feel like you're singing it. Some of you will feel like a mantra, which it is. Ava Me. You know what's weird? Teresa Berger, you just mentioned Ave Maria. You know what's weird? When I received that phrase later on, I was like, whoa, that's sort of like, it was like I also saw the synchronicity in terms of the similarity in phrasing. And I wish I knew why that was. I think some of you guys have heard me tell the story of how I discovered the capsule phrases, and that was through what some, you know, I don't really bring them up that much, but you know, Corey Good calls them the Zulu aliens. I guarantee, well, I shouldn't say I guarantee, I'm pretty sure that's not at all what they're called, but that's a group of beings that's working with a lot of people right now. And so, you know, not to sort of reference his side of it, but I began having experiences with these very, very tall, very dark-skinned shamanic beings in 2017. And I think a year or so later, in one of the other experiences that I had with them, some of you guys heard me talk about this on another live stream. It was like I came up out of this tub of water, and there was a group of very old women, and they were singing them. And that was actually where I got the capsule phrases, not the actual words that came through it, but my understanding of what they were doing. And it was like they were singing them, and it was like they were surrounding this tub of water that I was coming up out of them. And it was like they were doing this like Ava Me Tu Chiro Yavura, and they were like singing it, and they were all in threes. It was like dun 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 dun, and it was just this thing that was happening. And so, you know, I think that's one of the reasons why I don't claim ownership over any of the techniques and stuff that we use in our clearings, because the reality is, I mean, I literally just mimicked what I experienced in those states of contact. And the wild thing is, some people will cringe when they hear that. They'll be like, what? You're telling me that the energetic modality that you used was learned through a strange out-of-body experience where you think you perceive some alien beings and you just copied what you saw yourself doing in that experience? Yes. Literally. And when I copied it, when I emulated and tried to do what I experienced in those moments, I and the people I was working with realized that something definitely happened with people. I mean, really, it continues to this day. So one of those things, I guess, one of those experiences that I always think about, and I'm like, man, even if, let's say, even if, because I think we always have to be, kind of, self-critical and go, even if that was a thing that I just created in my mind's eye, just because I needed to have a pivotal experience one day in Matthew's consciousness, completely fabricated an out-of-body experience with these strange beings where he went through all these experiences with them, even if that was created through my consciousness, it's really cool to watch the fact that the tools that we took from that experience actually created an effect. And so to me, when I started using and sort of really leaning into what I experienced from those initial experiences, when I really started leaning into it was when all of the work that we are doing now really, really took off. And so to me, it was, a really, really authentic example of how we'll sort of pick up things from other versions of ourselves. And so granted, a lot more data and a lot more experiences came with it later. There's a bunch of other stuff. But anyway, getting back to the kind of probably the final data point, because we just went over 2 hours. But so we'll probably roll out of here in a little bit. But the whole idea is that for those of us that are learning how to open up and clear and heal energetic anatomy, for those of us that are learning to awaken the ancient mystic, the ancient healer, the ancient shaman, the spiritual warrior, the version of you that you have been lifetime after lifetime. And in this lifetime, we're down here on Earth. And, we get, the incredible experience of getting to connect with all those versions of us. But for those of you guys that are trying to connect more deeply with your own processes of how to open up your own, non-physical channels, and why would you want to open up the navel chakra and the third eye chakra? What would even be the reason behind that? Why would you want to do such a thing? Well, so number one, you can accurately or more accurately visually experience spiritual energy, the things that take place in what we call the internal realms. So number one, that would give you more of a deeper view into non-physical energy. And then number two, specifically, why the navel chakra? Because someone's going to ask that at some point. Why the navel? Why are the third eye and the navel chakra joined? Why do some people believe that the navel chakra is the back door for the third eye? Well, I believe that. Well, in my opinion, it is literally the back door. But anyway, from its own individual perspective, not related to the third eye necessarily, the navel chakra is widely regarded as what many refer to as the center for instinct and knowing within the human non-physical body or container. The center for instinct and knowing. It is thought that, people that learn to react in a split second, moment's notice in the most appropriate manner. You see this with those that study martial arts for many years and they're able to boom instantly, it's not me, I'm more of the internal version of it, but they're able to instantly deflect, instantly engage. The navel chakra is the not the only one, but it's the one of the primary passageways that as we learn to kind of react instantaneously to a source of energy, that's the passageway that needs to be able to open up. Somebody, there you go, Joyce Hartman said gut instinct. You're definitely correct. It's also one of the gateways to what we call the gut-brain axis and that whole energetic complex, which is also very, very related to the third eye as well. But using those two phrases will give you an additional layer of operability within your third eye so that you can not only begin to experience it differently, but I think that when we use both of those phrases, and for some people it'll work great, for others it'll be a learned process, for some people you'll do it 100 times and it might not be the right fit for you. There's a million modalities to help you open up your energy centers, but I have found so far capsule phrases as being incredibly effective. You can also to be totally honest. You can also just tone directly into the chakra as well, which we've done on a lot of live streams. We won't do it here today for sake of time, but I encourage everybody to try it. Try the capsule phrase Ava Me, and try the capsule phrase Du Chi Ro. Use both of those. Focus upon your third eye, focus on your navel chakra. And then what do you do after that? Maybe, repeat them, use them as a mantra. You can kind of, just vibrate the body with it. But the whole idea is after you will do that, notice what you notice internally within your mind's eye. Don't judge it. Don't lean into it. Don't say, oh, that's fake, I'm making it up. Just notice what passes through. Really dedicate yourself to just a few moments of time where you just merely perceive what shows up visually. Now, what will probably happen is you'll go through this kind of like gradated series of, colors and shapes and frequencies. And in the midst of that, you will start to experience, check this out, weird pieces of memories, conversations that you had recently, moments that were shared with people, random things where you all of a sudden you'll be like, why am I thinking of that? What's that doing there? And that's one of the examples of what happens when you actually start to open up energy centers. You will start to realize that there's so much contained within them. And one of the things you'll notice, or I think maybe it's a byproduct of when we use certain healing modalities like the capsule phrase scalar toning process, tends to be one that as you're moving that energy through the body, people will experience the outpouring of it, whether it be through a memory of an energy, a memory of a conversation, memory of a trauma. It's like you'll watch it in your own way go down the drain. Sometimes you'll feel a bit of it. Sometimes you'll just find yourself moving through thought forms. And what that is for most people, I shouldn't say most people because everyone experiences it a bit differently. But what you'll notice is when you really push energy into certain energy centers, it's like stirring up a jar and you will start to experience things. And so a really good way to test those capsule phrases is to vibrate the physical body with them several times and then just sit in silence. You know what I mean? Sit in silence and just notice what arises. In a lot of cases, when you ask the question of like, what's blocking my third eye, what's blocking my ability to perceive spiritual energy on a more vivid or accurate level, what you'll notice is after you do those two capsule phrases and then you just kind of hold your focus on your third eye, what you may be viewing in your internal memory banks or the recordings that play afterward, what you may be viewing are some of the energies and the memories and the emotional programs that stand in the way of you perceiving third eye energy on a different level. Meaning that, it's almost like you'll get a view of what might be blocking it. And here's the thing, as a person that does this every day, you won't always get a view of it. Sometimes you'll just get a little bit. Sometimes you'll get fragments. Sometimes you'll get weird pieces that don't make sense. It shows up very differently for each of us, which is why, for those that want to have a more accurate view of those non-physical cues and the visual things that you receive in there, that's why we go back to what I was talking about like an hour ago now, which seems like a long time. Maybe it wasn't. But that's where we would go back to, maybe cornerstone fundamentals of heavy metal detox, parasite cleanse, maybe a dedicated fast or some other form of, really clearing out the physical body. I can guarantee you that even if you don't consider yourself to be an intuitive person, maybe you're just drawn to this channel to hear me say weird stories and talk awkwardly about myself. But in my opinion, if you're one of the 50-something people that's gathered together here today, it is you were called to this moment because part of your journey in this human life cycle, in this lifetime that you're in right now, part of your journey was to begin to understand and to activate your own intuitive abilities, which for some people sounds like a big awkward kind of, hopiumistic, big, new age statement, like you're here, because sometimes it is like a manipulation. Somebody would be like, you're like your ancestors brought you here, your guides, and you could turn it into like a platitude. But in my opinion and experience, if you made it to here to this moment on this live stream, one of the experiences you chose to have in this life cycle was to come into contact with that more intuitive version of yourself. And so if you're here, it's part of your journey. Embrace it. Detox the body. clear the mind, heal the inner child, allow the imagination to run rampant, learn what a false positive is, learn what a negative is, learn how to really allow yourself to jump off an intuitive cliff and just perceive what shows up. There's a lot of training and learning and weird awkwardness and embarrassment that comes with that process. But for those that really devote themselves to it, it will fundamentally change your life. And so, anyway, watch out. The rants will continue. Thanks for hanging out, you guys. What's up, Adam Marquise? Good to see you around these parts. My humble opinion, chi is a combination of mana, transparent fluid in fifth dimension, pure will energy, often called yi, which fulcrum is sixth center, and love energy, fourth center, that act as glue for these types of energy. I feel comfortable agreeing with that. I don't know that I have looked at what we would call the kind of substance, or maybe we could call it the ingredients of chi energy on that deep of a level. And I think what you're saying is definitely possible, man. I feel you. Some of you guys with really good ears will hear in the background a subtle, crazy vibration coming from the other room in my house. And that is literally our refrigerator in the other room. Sounds like it's about to explode. I'm being totally real, you guys. I'm like hearing it in the other room going, damn. Which is probably a good thing, because it's probably a sign that we've reached our live stream limit, because a really crazy sound just erupted on the other side of my house. But anyway, the good news is it'll get fixed. They usually fix everything around here. But we'll check a couple more of your comments before we move on. Oh, and just like that, the sound stopped. I wonder what that was. Maybe Anora fixed it. Anyway, I don't know. It's definitely weird. You guys probably aren't picking it up on the mic, because if you did, you'd be like, oh my Lord, what the hell's going on over there? Oh, whoa, I love it. Martha Fenno, what's going on? I was once summoned by vibration to witness the giant astral life bringing bug god. Whoa. Wow. Very, very genuinely, Marsha Fenno, thank you for bringing that one in. So when I talk about, I love it when people put strange comments and whatnot, I'm like, that's a good one. Summoned by vibration to witness the giant astral life bringing bug god. Man, I would love to hear more about that. I know they only let you type so much in the chat, and who knows, my stream might be over by the time you get it out, but damn, that sounds cool. Very, very cool. When I was going through dedicated path of out-of-body experience training, I think this was 2020, with a really good teacher, Henda Zaguwani. She does have a video. We did a chat with her, I think, a year or so ago on our channel. It's kind of buried now because we've done a lot of stuff since then, but Henda's an incredible teacher. For those of you guys that aren't wanting to learn how to navigate or just learn about the process of how to experience out-of-body stuff, Henda's a really great resource. I really genuinely mean it. Do check her out. But there was a period when we were going through her training stuff, and I was going through the process of kind of moving out of my physical body in a very deliberate way at that stage. And in one of the experiences I had, I got to experience what I believe to be, and I don't know why your comment brought this up for me. It's going to be such a weird, it'll be a weird non sequitur. She was talking about, what was it? Where did it go? The giant astral life bringing bug god. What I actually perceived was it was like universes or realms or almost like galaxies that had consciousness, and it was like they were in stages of creation. And in one place I visited was shown to me as literally one of the places where they would create a planet. And what it was the way it was shown in the moment was like this massive structure. I guess we'll call it in space or whatever dimension it was. But it was like half of the planet, and they were in this process of like completing the spherical dome of the planet. And what happened in that particular experience is I was able to kind of stand on the railing around what could feel like very higher dimensional scaffolding and sort of watch the creation process of what appeared to be a planet. And what it looked like was that they were putting this sort of glowing matter in. There was this sort of growth and incubation process, and it was like they were sort of watching it form, almost like the way like snowflakes would form, and each one is individual and each one is different. And it was like they were sort of allowing this energy to flow through this half of this gigantic spheroid thing. Very, and ultimately, I think it was the creation of worlds or the creation of planets. And I got to just kind of watch it. And I remember seeing, just kind of for this moment, it was like I was standing on the railing, looking over, watching this sort of glowing matter entering this massive, massive thing. It was mind bending at the time. It's crazy to kind of look back on that. It also reminds me I should return to some of the frequencies of work we were doing around that time, because crazy, crazy stuff happened. I think there was another one that I talked about on another live stream where I encountered what was essentially three, such a weird thing to kind of end with, three essentially infantile realms, or what I perceive them as, it sounds so dumb, universes in training or in this stage of infancy. And what they were essentially these massive glowing clouds of matter and consciousness. And there was three of them. And it's crazy because each one had its individual color. One of them was gold, one of them was kind of pinkish, one of them was kind of golden. And it's just me saying that sounds like, oh, really? You saw three multicolored universal consciousnesses approaching you in an astral realm? Yep, that's exactly what it was. And it was like, it's not that I was approached by them, but I was within, I guess we would call their vibratory range. And it was a very short encounter. It's not like they took me on some journey to the LOC. We didn't go into the secret space program, nothing like that. What it was that it was like they were just greeting me. It was like they were passing through an interdimensional space, and there was a moment of acknowledgement. And what I was shown in that moment, or the way that they chose to present themselves, yes, Cassandra just got it. It was like baby universes. And the phrase that I got, or the phrase that, and here's the thing, this was not what the word that they said to me, this was my interpretation of it. But what I interpreted it as was celestial children. Celestial children. And they were like clouds of conscious energy that, from what I was shown, what one of their processes was, they were going to turn into a realm. It was like, maybe we could even say, because in my opinion, a sixth density consciousness could be described as a stage of consciousness in which one, like you or me, would exist as a realm unto themselves. I believe they could have been an example of a true sixth density consciousness, because it wasn't like we had a talk. It wasn't like we hung out and had a chat, but it was like I felt and acknowledged that it was like they were viewing and sampling my energy, and I felt that they acknowledged that I was viewing them. It was like, hey, this is us, that's you, and then everyone just went on their way. And it's always weird to talk about it afterwards. I think some people will be like, yeah, sure, okay. But man, it was just some of those days, some of the strange mystical experiences that one can have. And don't worry if you haven't had those type of experiences. I absolutely promise you, it is possible for you to open up your energy centers and the channels within your body and experience maybe not similar things. You'll experience your own version of it. I really believe fundamentally it is true for every living and souled human being that if you choose to open up the non-physical channels and pathways in your body, you can also experience these things. I believe it in my heart of hearts. The difference is, and I'm not such a good example of it because I think I got those channels blown open for me, and then I had to learn what to do with it. But, most of us don't necessarily want to do the work that it will take to really open them. I don't say that as an assumption. I just say that from my experience of what I have viewed. And it's like I see a lot of people grabbing onto testimonies and stories of other people's experiences and taking them as an understanding of truth, as that's the way the universe or the galaxy or, maybe the Galactic Federation or how the aliens actually work. When the reality is everyone has their own, I shouldn't say that's the reality for everyone, what we've seen for a lot of us that devote ourselves to, opening up those aspects of our energies, we realize that we have our own and, totally individual set of experiences that are waiting for us. In some cases, they're very similar to what we've learned from other people. They're very similar to other experiences. In other cases, they're very, very different. In some cases, they're meant only for us to experience. And then I guess if you want to get technical, in some cases, our consciousness needs to fabricate and create an internalized mystical experience to help catalyze our healing journey as humans. And so there are many, many versions of it. Some of them we create, some of them we experience, some of them we experience with others. But anyway, it's definitely out there. Celestial children, life-giving bug gods. I think that was what she had perceived, right? Oh, what's up, Martha Fenno? There we go. We got some descriptions of it. We'll talk about this before we roll out. From the horizon, I saw towering above all the mountains a huge insect who emanates, I think you meant emanates blue and green into the world around themselves. I wonder if there is something before that. Oh, there was. You had a piece before that. Sorry, I'm doing it in backwards fashion. The water lapped over and healed in an instant. It was like the bomb never went off, and the world began to rotate towards me from the horizon to a black and glowing red landscape. Hold on. Let's go back here. I'm going to grab all your fragments, Martha Fenno. This is very fascinating. Thanks for typing this out. I'm going to try to do it in order. Here we go. Boom. Skipping the prologue, for third eye reasons, I smoked weed. That's okay. It will definitely open your third eye, guys. Don't beat yourself up on that. Yes, it will also clog it later on. Yes, it will also distort what you experience later on. But generally, yes, it will definitely. It's a tool you can use. It's also a crutch. Both good and bad. I am not immune to it by any means. But yeah, it'll open it up. So meditated, smoke some weed, meditated to fix a third eye problem that I created for myself. I let my body dissolve into my bedspread. Cool. Then it felt as though my body vibrated in resonance to an astral gong struck from very, very far away. And specifically for me, sorry, I'm reading back your experience awkwardly. I have experienced a very similar thing as well, Marcia. I know a lot of us have. When you start leaving the body, there's like this crazy ringing and vibration thing that takes place. It's wild. Sounds very much like what you're describing here. Let's find more. I witnessed what I can describe as a huge nuclear explosion in the water of a planet that exposed the sea floor, like I was from low orbit. Okay, interesting. Let's keep going. Thanks for writing this out, Martha. Here we go. Now this makes sense. Now we have context. The water lapped over and healed in an instant, and it was like the bomb never went off, and the world then began to rotate toward me from the horizon to a black and glowing red landscape. Okay, so interesting. Let's find more. Maybe there's more. Here we go. And we saw this one. From the horizon, I saw towering above all the mountains a huge insect. Damn. Who emanates blue and green into the world around themselves. Let's find more. I see it. Here it is. Making forests and lakes, what looked like fully formed beings shedding off of it, like we shed skin cells. On its front was every single appendage that could ever be revolved by any insect. Whoa. Okay. Very, very interesting. Nice. Its head was like a grasshopper, and its body like a grub, and a beetle and a fly. Its giant eye was orange, and I looked into it, felt the vibration that had summoned me, and I was back in my bed. Totally. Thank you for writing that out. I mean that very sincerely. Thank you guys that are hanging out with us for going through that wild experience. Some of you guys are going to have the experience where you read those fragments of what shows up on the screen, and you're going to notice is that it's very much like I was saying. Sometimes you'll get a picture and you'll realize there's before and after. There's other details. There's other pieces of it. Martha Fenna, I think that's a good example of when you have a legitimate out of body experience and your consciousness will get summoned to another place or another location. You'll view a thing that, based on our human experience, will literally make no sense. There will be no frame of reference for it. Based upon the physical reality you'll be in, the existence of what you perceive in that one will probably be fundamentally impossible. In my opinion, that's a true example of when our consciousness travels the multidimensional realms. And I'll just say it, not trying to be funny, but for real, you're going to see some weird shit out there. Like, for real, really, really weird things. There was I'll just mention this. I know we're going on an epic rant. Sorry, guys. But there was another time during this process in 20, I think, I think this was 2020. Maybe 2021. Ooh, my dates are so weird. But there was another stage where I think that in kind of like moving out of the body, during the stage where I was really doing it with dedication and I was trying like every day. And yeah, after a while, you'll integrate certain things and you might not dedicate yourself to them on a daily basis. But during the stage when I was really dedicating that, there was a couple of days or kind of experiences that I had that did kind of scare me. I'm going to be real. It did kind of scare me. One of those was when I entered what I believe was it was very brief, mind you, very brief, which I've been blessed to not be traumatized by some of these things. I say that very delicately, knock on wood, that I don't get that. But I believe it was very much like a lower astral plane that I had entered. And what I encountered was, this is so weird, man, a series of rooms that were just joined together, which it's weird. As I say that, it almost sounds like the back rooms. If anyone's familiar with the back rooms, kind of, it's almost a genre of like amateur or independent filmmaking now, this concept of the back rooms. But didn't look anything like the back rooms. It's almost like it was a series of dungeons or very dirty, very weird, dark places. And what I was able to do was go through a series of rooms, one after the other. And in one of the rooms was a giant fly, and the fly took up the entire room. It was like, I feel like it was probably over my head. It was just like ungodly how big it was. And it was very scary. And it was like there was a vibration that came off of it. It was like, I remember looking at the eyes of it. And I believe that's when I actually got scared, because it was like I noticed that it was like every single one of the lenses on its eye was like it was almost like it was an individual being. And it was like the experience of having it look at me was just, it was too much. It was just like, whoa, it was just weird. And then in the other room that I viewed was a giant rat, which I do, but here's the thing about the rat, and I know we're going on all kinds of weird angular rants today, but I try to be very specific when I will experience certain things, and it's like I don't know exactly what it was. To be technical, the rat that I experienced in that experience, in that moment or in that journey, was very, very much like a being that I noticed in a video game around that time. It was not a game that I was playing, but it was one that I was aware of. And so it could be one of those things where it's like an element will be created in your astral experience because you had already seen a visual example of it elsewhere. And so like, it'll sort of be created in that experience so that you can experience it. But in other times, I think it's because there is literally a being like that. But to be fair, I had an image front loading in my own world of a very giant rat. So it was very similar to that. But both of those creatures really, really creeped me out. And in the one where there was this rat in the giant room, the thing that creeped me out the most about it was its tail. Because when I was able to see in the room, I could see this rat was in there, and it had like sores on its body, which, if you want to get technical, is very much like what I had viewed in that game. And so I believe that, there was some crossover in terms of like, visual stimulus or pre-existing mental catalog, we could say, mental visual catalog. I think that was part of where, that being was populated, was because I had already an existing mental image of it. But it had like weird sores all over its body and stuff. And it was just sitting in this room. I wouldn't say that, I don't know. It was very quick. I don't think it was necessarily vibrating like the fly, but the fly had like a vibration on it that it was like almost made me feel sick. But the thing that creeped me out about the rat was its tail, because the tail, it was like, it was really weird. It sounds so dumb to talk about it, but I know other people have experiences like this. And so it's helping other people in their own way. But it's like the tail was so big and thick, and it was almost like bulbous. You could see like the sections, the segments of the tail. Oh man. And granted, nothing bad happened. It wasn't like, I was not traumatized by it, but man, I tell you, it will happen. There are stages when it's like you will try to open up channels of being able to view things in the non-physical realm, and then like one day you'll view it and it's like, oh my God, whoa, I didn't know if I wanted to see that. And here, watch as I kind of wipe my nose here on my live stream. But I guess since we're doing heavy story time tonight, heavy story time tonight, I'll go through the last one. I promise. This is the last element, because it kind of follows along with what happens when you really try to like kind of leave the body and open the third eye. And then sometimes you open it so far and you're like, oh my God. Another time was right after one of the journeys that I had done with her. And man, there were stages of just incredible activation in 2020. And there was one day specifically where, after I had done this out of body journeying process, and I'm pretty sure in that one there was like a portal that I went, all kinds of wild things had occurred. I came back, and it was like almost after I was done, I wasn't really done, because it's almost like there's doors. I shouldn't say almost, excuse me, there's quite literally doors that we sometimes will need to close, and sort of, it's like you'll need to close the doors and, close the windows and lock the doors after you have certain experiences. And not because there's something evil that's going to come through, because it's part of like an energetic, hygiene thing, where it's like, you just won't leave things undone. It's like, leaving the house and the stoves on or something. But what I in hindsight, what I remember about that day was that I didn't do any sort of a closing process. I just came out of a meditation, and I was walking through the hallway in this very, very small apartment that we lived in Los Angeles at the time. And it was like I stepped into the bathroom, and it was like right next to the shower. I know I'm being too specific, but I remember looking up, and for some reason it was like I was looking up not with my human eyes, but with the third eye. And it was like, upon looking upward, I was able to see so far. It was like such an incredibly, utterly clear view through what I assume was some sort of crown chakra portal in my body. It was like, man, I could see so clearly through it that it scared me. And what I noticed was, it was like I was looking through this opening, and on the other side of it, I saw a being that, I'll be honest with you. I talk about how I haven't been traumatized by like some of these experiences, but it's probably the closest I've ever been to really, really wishing that I didn't see it. But what I saw was, through that opening into whatever realm or place, or just the astral, shared astral space, when I looked upward, what I perceived was this amoeba type being. It was literally like a gigantic living amoeba type of an organism. And it had like thousands and thousands of legs. I mean, just so many. I mean, it was just, oh my God. One of the damn near the creepiest things I'd ever seen. And it wasn't so much like the visual thing about it. What I think you guys will find, for those of you guys that also kind of travel and like go outside of the body, whether it's in dream time or consciously, is that when you encounter a being or an energy, it's not like you just see it. It's not like that's how it works in the astral space. It's like you will also experience their energy. And so what I experienced from it was that the frequency of this sort of amoeba-like being, what it literally did was cause fear. That's what it does. It causes fear. And it wasn't like an evil thing. It wasn't like a good thing. It was just an organism that feeds on fear. And that's what it does. And it's like, when I saw it, it was like I viewed it and I saw its energy, and it was like, that moment where, like, imagine if you were walking in a jungle, and you're walking through the trees and you turn your head to the right and there you look 20 feet away from you is, let's say, like a predator animal that would kill you. You see it and you're like, whoa, I do not want to cross paths with that dude. But you don't. You just see it. You know what I mean? And just just the acknowledgement that you were that close to it and it would just pass by. I'll be honest, and I'm kind of I'm over intellectualizing it on the live stream in this moment, but to go to the essence of the experience, it freaked me out, dude. It freaked me out. It was like, whoa, careful what you wish for, because you're gonna see something at a certain point and you won't like it. So, not that happens to everyone, because it doesn't necessarily happen to everyone, and I try to be really specific about that. It doesn't have to happen for you, but for some of us, you'll definitely open some doors within your being, and strange things will happen. But that said, kind of like clockwork, you guys. Once again, crazy appliance eruption in the other room. And so I'm gonna go check on that. We've been here almost 3 hours, which is fun because we were planning on doing only 2 hours. I decided that's my sort of time frame for the lives. But anyway, in the meantime, I really mean this. Thank you everyone that's been hanging out with us over the past few hours. I really want to acknowledge those of you guys that kind of hang out and come in and out and come back into the live and put comments in. Thank you. Thanks for hanging out. We are going to come back. I'm pretty sure it's in 2 weeks. We will have a guest. We are going to go back to the interview format. You guys can cross your fingers and pray that my guests confirm and that they actually want to come on our show, because they don't always. But anyway, we're gonna have a new guest on next time. In the meantime, you can find me right here on YouTube. Please subscribe and share this video if you've enjoyed this weird, long, windy road tonight. Share this video and like this video. And you can always find me at rememberyourmission.com, where private sessions, I say this all the time, they are the heart of what I do on a daily basis. Some people work with groups. Some people are meant to work with thousands. I know that my strongest work takes place when it's one-on-one and we're just doing a session and connecting with energy. And so as always, you can find me at rememberyourmission.com. And I'm also on Patreon at the Blue Flame Collective, where this month meeting just happened. That was last week. Nora did a really cool multi-hour kind of reading session. And our next meeting of Patreon, pretty sure it's August 20th. Pretty sure it's August 20th. But anyway, we will talk more about that in the future. In the meantime, I'm going to go check out this really super loud, bizarre, crashing, grinding noise in our kitchen. And thanks for hanging out tonight, you guys. From the School of Multidimensional Intuition, we're just going to keep rolling. Stay safe out there, you guys. And we'll see you in the multidimensional trailer park in the very near future. All right, you guys.